Yusin Mok. I'm here with the team of interpreters from a set of languages. We're honored to be here to provide interpretation services to tonight. We'll now give instructions to access the language channels in the different languages. And we'll start with Arabic. So I'm going to pass it off to Matt.
مرحبا، أنا اسمي معتز، مترجمكم اللغة العربية. بعد قليل سيتم تشغيل قنوات للترجمة. سيظهر رمز الكرة الأرضية على الشاشة، اضغط عليه ثم اضغط على اللغة العربية. إذا كنت تتصل من هاتف ذكي اضغط على 3 نقط ثم على ترجمة اللغات ثم اللغة العربية. شكرا جزيلا. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'm going to pass it off to Nikita for Haitian Creole.
Hello, hi everyone. Bonsoir, bonsoir tout le monde. Nom c'est Nikita Lamo, c'est moi qui traduit à Soya en créole. Donc, là, nous entendons les nouvelles fonctions apparaître. Nous allons peser bouton qui marque, nous allons peser le blanc, après que French ou bien créole ça qui marque. Après ça, si c'est la cellule phone, nous allons voir 3 petits points. Nous allons cliquer 3 petits points, nous allons cliquer soit French ou bien Haitian Creole. Après ça, nous allons cliquer done. Okay? All right.
Thank you. Next, we have Portuguese from Raissa.
Oi, boa noite. Meu nome é Raissa. A gente tem interpretação em português hoje à noite. Depois que a gente ativa a função de interpretação, na parte de baixo da sua tela você vai ver um globo. Clique nesse globo, aí você vai ver português. Se você estiver participando de um celular, você vai ver 3 pontinhos na parte de baixo da sua tela. Por favor, clique nesses 3 pontinhos, onde vai estar a palavra more ou mais, e depois escolhe português de novo. Obrigada. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mandarin, Tina.
大家好，我是您的普通话的这个同传翻译。一会儿呢，如果您是用电脑的话，你会看到一个带有翻译字样的一个地球仪。但是如果你要是手机加入的话，你要会看到3个小点儿，然後你點擊開，它就會出來一個語言翻譯的字樣。那麼麻煩你選普通話，感謝各位。
大家好，我叫莫如善，係今日大家嘅廣東話翻譯。如果你係想聽廣東話頻道咧，你可以喺嗰個熒幕下低咧有一個地球嘅按鈕，撳咗佢之後咧，你可以揀廣東話頻道。如果你打電話入嚟，你可以撳有3粒點嘅掣，然之後咧揀廣東話頻道嘅。多謝大家。Thank you, and we're all set.
So now we need a host. See what?
So, Greg, you have now shifted the host to me.
You got it.
Okay. Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the April 13th, 2021 meeting of the Malden City Council.
Yeah, you can leave that. Appreciate it.
I hope you'll bear with us this evening. We've got some very important topics going on this evening, and as a result, we've engaged a number of interpreters so that this discussion that's to take place this evening can be heard and understood in a number of different languages, as you've just been hearing the interpreters introduce themselves. So with that, I'll announce that the meeting is being recorded in accordance with Governor Baker's directions. As we're in this pandemic, we are unable to have meetings in person because of this COVID-19 pandemic, so we're doing this virtually. There will be video and audio recordings of this evening's meeting, so please be aware of that as we go through the proceedings this evening. And we then will begin. I'll gavel the meeting to order and ask you all if you'll please stand so that we may salute the flag. Please stand. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please remain standing for a moment of silence as we honor our service men and women and those in uniform and for those who have given the ultimate sacrifice. Thank you. And Councilor Crowe, I believe you have a wish to honor, I ask for a moment of silence. Councilor Crowe?
Yes, Mr. President. You know, last week was a sad week in Ward 1 as we laid to rest two longtime residents, Jimmy Concanon, who is the father-in-law of Dan Grover, our city treasurer, and John Zamani, who is the father of Drew Zamani, who serves on our board of voters.
So please, a moment of silence for both those individuals as mentioned. Thank you. And one other, I think we also have, we've just recently learned of the passing of the husband of our woman from the Bread of Life. Would someone like to speak on that?
Yes, Gabby Stelmach's husband, Richard, passed away suddenly earlier this week. Again, a Ward 1 organization. So sad week in our community.
Sad week in our community. Another moment of silence. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Please be seated. So will the clerk please call the roll?
Mal,
Here.
Condon,
Condon here.
Crowe,
Here.
DeMaria,
DeMaria here.
Linehan,
Linehan here.
Murphy,
Murphy here.
O'Malley,
Malley here.
Sika,
Sika here.
Spatafora,
Spatafora here.
Winslow,
Winslow here.
Anderson.
Anderson here.
Everyone's here.
Everyone is here. So as I mentioned earlier, under the provisions of the open meeting law, for those of you in attendance, please be informed that Malden Access Television, formerly known as Malden Access Television, now UMA, is recording this evening's meetings, as well as one of Malden's residents is John Mayera, also recording this evening. So there'll be, please be aware that there'll be both audio and visual recordings of this meeting and the first order of business.
First order of business is on the guest city achievement and announcements. Birutki, Tsige, and Erga, Pierette will appear before the council to receive citations from Council President Neal Anderson on their 2021 Black Excellence on the Hill Awards.
Well, let me redo that. Birutki and Erga, two women who are well known in our community, both being honored for the great things that they have done here in the city. And this is a little awkward because we're doing these honors here in this virtual manner. And once we begin to get back in person, we'll be trying to do something in person. But in both these cases, these two women were recognized, named 2021 in the case of Birutki. She was recognized as the 2021 Black Excellence on the Hill honoree. Birutki is a Malden High School graduate and has shown outstanding leadership amongst her peers and community members in Malden. In her senior year, she founded the Malden Youth Civic Council to encourage students to get involved in local government. The citation didn't have enough room on it to talk about all the things that this young woman has done, but I think many of us know that Birutki has been someone who has whenever there has been any kind of activity going on of noteworthy in Malden High School during her senior year, that she was there leading the foray for that. And the Black Legislative Caucus of the State House is the one who is presenting these awards. And both Birutki, and I'll read a bit about Erga Pierette, in recognition of her being honored by the Massachusetts Black and Latino Legislative Caucus. Erga is dedicated to dismantling systemic racism in the Malden community. She's the co-convener of the Malden Community Organized for Racial Equality, Malden Core, and volunteers for many other community groups working to promote equality in our city. She's been commended for being an outstanding leader, and we want to wish her every success in her future endeavors. Erga, as you may remember, those of you councilors who have participated in things like the Juneteenth celebration that we officially put into place in the last 2 years. Juneteenth, as you will remember, is that celebration of African slaves who, when they finally found out that freedom had come during the emancipation, the celebration took place when they were finally informed of their freedom. We celebrate that. We call that Juneteenth, and Erga was the driving force behind that. Erga has been involved in doing things with working with the police policy review of use of force, and a whole lot of other very important things that have helped to make our city a better city. So to both of these young women, we wish them very much their success and congratulate them for this honor that they've received as they've been noted and honored by the city of Malden. So I'll be glad to ask either of them if they would like to be brought on and share a word. And I'm going to ask you councilors to hold on. Who would like to speak first? I'm going to pick one then, huh?
Birutki raised her hand.
Oh, Erga.
Birutki raised her hand. She would love to speak first.
She would be allowed to speak first. Well, I got to figure out how I do that. Let's see, Birutki.
I can speak.
There you go. You're already on as a panelist. Yes.
Yes. Thank you so much. I truly appreciate this recognition and citation, so thank you. So even after leaving for college, I still find my way back to Malden, whether it's like supporting the high schoolers who need help with colleges, or joining organization and committees, because there's just really something about the city that feels like home. And it's a place where I think I feel heard, and where there's like other like-minded individuals. So for the community members who are here, I truly want to thank you for that. But I also have to acknowledge that in order to get into this position, I had to really fight for it, especially I think all my 4 years of high school. And if not for my teachers who kept encouraging me and my peers who stood with me in protests, marches, petitions, I wouldn't be here. And there are so many other students like me in Malden who can get into these positions, who can accomplish everything that I did and more. In hindsight, I feel like I could have done so much more, but that's not for now, if not for all the obstacles preventing them. So I implore you, city councilors today, to consider all the ways that you're helping students feel a part of the city, not just in a school setting, but in a wider city lens, especially in government and local politics. And when they do come to you with suggestions, asking for change, asking for actions, to take them seriously, to not dismiss them. Because I remember every instance where politicians or community members dismissed me, even when I had very valid concerns. And with other students, that one dismissal might be something that just deters them from politics for the rest of their life. So I truly ask you to consider that, and to help them solve the issues that they really feel are valid and that they see in their communities. But thank you again so much.
Would you tell us what you're doing now?
Yes, I'm currently a sophomore at Harvard, and I'm on a pre-med track with neuroscience, but I also do writing. And my hope is to, on the side, to write young adult fiction, especially with activism and with other really cool plot aspects. So we'll see what comes of it, but that's where I am right now.
Very good. Erga, join us, please.
Thank you so very much for the recognition and the citation. It really means a lot to me. There's a lot of work that needs to be done, and we'll continue doing it together. I love the city of Malden. I have my children here, and I hope that they don't experience the things that I've experienced, and that there are seats that are opened at the table. Malden gives me hope for change, and being able to connect with community members, both near and far, to bring forth the change that is needed, gives me ongoing hope and pride for our great city of Malden. Thank you.
What are you into now, Erga?
A little bit of everything.
Look, yeah.
We're in the process of planning Juneteenth. This is our 4th annual. We will be hosting our flag raising ceremony, which will take place in front of City Hall this year, and it will be an in-person celebration. So we're really excited about that. And we are also, I'm also participating with the Malden Reads on Learn to Relearn workshop that is being led by Guan Guan, and several of you are participating in that as well, which again gives me hope towards change and having a, creating that common understanding of racism and how to dismantle it here in our city.
Very good, very good. Well, I see a hand raised. Again, congratulations to both of you, you outstanding women of Malden. We're so proud of you and proud of what you've done. And I'm going to let Councilor Lenahan have the first raised hand. Councilor Lenahan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'll be very brief. I just wanted to congratulate you both, Birutki and Erga. I see the work that you're doing in the community. You never shy away from the hardest conversations. And what I'm most impressed by is how unafraid you are to challenge all of us, those of us in positions of power and elected positions. And I hope that you continue to do that. And I applaud you for this very well-deserved recognition. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Winslow.
Birutki and Erga, I just want to congratulate you, and you are great examples of, to all of us, of being the change you want to see, and continue to do that, continue to challenge us. Thank you.
Councilor Crowe.
I don't want to be redundant, but that happens. So I just want to say congratulations to both of you for all the work that you've done in being honored and in this way at the state. So congratulations and thank you.
Councilor O'Malley.
I also just want to say congratulations. A lot of hard work, and a lot of hard work to start in the future and continue causing the good trouble.
Causing good trouble. There we go. Where have we heard that before? That's a Representative John Lewis expression, right?
That's right, yeah.
That was Councilor DeMaria.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Mr. President. Huge congratulations to these wonderful leaders in our community. So proud to know you, so proud to see how far you've gone, and so excited to see how far you're going to go. So great job. Thank you so much.
Good. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Yes, I just wanted to echo my colleagues and just saying congratulations. Birutki, it's been a pleasure to watch you grow over the last few years and see the interaction. And I love the story about your family that was on UMA. I believe that's where I read it. That was, an amazing story that you have from beginning to where you are now. And I can only see your shining star, continuing to glow as you move forward in your life. You're a truly special young lady, and such a role model for our students in school who can look to you to see what can be done with hard work and dedication. So congratulations again. And Erga, I don't know you all that well. I've obviously heard your name, and I know that you've done some wonderful things in the city. I want to thank you for being part of our community and being with us and helping us navigate through these waters that we're all trying to swim through these days. So your presence is a blessing, and I want to congratulate you again. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Spadafora.
Thank you, Mr. President. Can you hear me?
Yes.
I apologize. I'm having trouble with my headset today. I want to certainly congratulate both these individuals. Certainly to be recognized not only by your peers, but by the state. And then also in a community such as Malden, as diverse it is, to choose two individuals to get that award is certainly astounding. It certainly speaks volumes, and based on the resumes, it seems like Council Anderson was right on point that the applications for these awards were certainly lengthy enough, and the achievements you've both done in the short amount of time is astounding. Certainly, a lot of the good endeavors that you've brought to the community, certainly increasing diversity and talking about things that we've never talked about in the past. So I certainly want to congratulate you and extend a warm congratulations from the council. And I look forward to seeing both of you doing more things in the future. Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kamel.
I just wanted to say thank you and congratulations. I know it's redundant from what everybody else is saying, but I just wanted to, it just makes our whole community proud with folks like you and all the stuff that you do every day. So thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like to say that I'm sure this entire city council's proud of both of you young individuals, as well as your families are. And I look forward to see what the future holds for both of you and your great successes. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Tsige.
Thank you, Council President. Sorry about that. I just want to say congratulations, ladies on a job well done. It's a huge accomplishment, and I look forward to seeing what the two of you are going to accomplish in the upcoming years in Malden. So thank you.
So thank you, Councilor. So certainly both Erga as well as Birutki, we're navigating some new waters for many people here in Malden. With all that's going on in our country, all of the turmoil of the challenges between the communities of color and law enforcement, we're all coming to grips with some information that for some people it's hard to swallow. So you've been helping us and helping this community to understand that we've got to check ourselves. We've got to be looking beyond our comfort level and look for things that are challenging us so that we can learn and we can improve our city. And so we don't give out these nice words to everyone that comes along. You all are special. You deserve all the praise that have been heaped on you this evening. And we're looking forward to when we can do this in person. And again, congratulations on behalf of myself and this entire, not only the city council, but the city of Malden. Thank you for all that you've done for our city. And thank you, ladies.
Thank you very much for the recognition.
Let's move on. Yeah, how about a round of applause? We may not be able to stand together, but we can see one another clapping together. Thank you. Mr. Clerk, let's go to the next order of business.
Paper 154-21, minutes of the meeting of March 30th, 2021.
Do we have a motion on that, those minutes?
I'll make a motion.
Motion to approve.
That sounded like Councilor Spatafora. Who seconded that?
Second.
Second by Councilor Condon. The clerk will call the roll.
Kamel.
Yes.
Condon.
Condon, yes.
Crow.
Yes.
DeMaria.
Yes.
Linehan.
Linehan, yes.
Murphy.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley.
O'Malley, yes.
Sika.
Sika, yes.
Spatafora.
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow.
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So those minutes have been accepted by the full city council. Next order of business.
It's paper 144-21, the public hearing, resolve on the Malden City Council supporting actions to maintain social distance on MBTA buses in response to COVID-19 state of emergency, whereas beginning in March 2020, the federal and state government and the Malden Board of Health declared states of emergency to respond to COVID-19, and whereas federal, state, municipal declarations and subsequent orders have restricted the capacity of public transportation vehicles in order to allow for sufficient social distancing for passengers and drivers, whereas the Massachusetts Bay Transportation Authority, the MBTA, has modified bus schedules in Malden in an effort to provide more frequent service to allow for sufficient social distancing, whereas the Massachusetts Department of Transportation has created the Winter Shared Streets Grant Program with the intent of funding quickly implemented projects that can support public health, safe mobility, and renewed commerce. Whereas the MBTA has submitted applications to the Winter Shared Streets Grant Program and the Community Connections Program that will fund traffic signal prioritization improvements along Center Street, Salem, and Main Streets, and bus lanes on Center and Main Streets that will help reduce travel time for MBTA buses along these corridors, thus providing further frequency of service and allowing for continued and social distancing on buses. Whereas the traffic signal prioritization improvements can be utilized by the Malden Fire and Police Department and local ambulance services to provide signal priority during emergency responses. Whereas the MBTA's Winter Shared Streets proposal is consistent with Malden Complete Streets policy and contains improvement for pedestrians and bicyclists, such as improved crosswalks and dedicated bicycle lane connecting the northern strand to the Malden MBTA station. Resolved that the Malden City Council hereby supports the improvements contained in the MBTA's Winter Shared Streets and Community Connections grant applications as presented to the council in April of 2021.
Thank you. So this was a paper that came before the council 2 weeks ago, and the council voted to have a public hearing because we'd like to hear what the public has to say about this proposal that's here before us. I see one hand up. What I'm going to ask councilors is that we hear from the public before we weigh in on we've asked for input from the public. Councilor O'Malley, you're one of the sponsors of the paper. I'm glad to let you speak on it as a sponsor, but beyond that, I'd like to let's hear from what the public has to say. Let's hear the input from the public before we hear from the rest of the councils. Is that okay, councilors? Any objection to that? Okay, thank you. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Council President Anderson. Traditionally, a presentation is given to the public so that they understand what we are presenting. I prepared a very shortened version of my previous presentation. I'd also ask if we could promote Eric Berkman, the Director of Transit Priority from the MBTA, because he also has some material that he'd like to present to the public so that they can make informed testimony.
Without objection, go right ahead.
Thank you. Would you mind promoting Eric Berkman? He's in the attendees list.
Eric Berkman?
Correct.
Why don't you begin while I'm working on promoting him to a panelist? Go right ahead.
Perfect. Again, hello, everyone. My name is Ryan O'Malley. I'm the Ward 4 City Councilor. I've been working on this project with a number of people, but most specifically Councilor at Large Stephen Winslow. Please disregard that date. That date is incorrect. Or actually, no, that date is correct. We are going to be going over transit signal prioritization and a proposal for bus and bike accommodations, as well as transit signal prioritization on Center Street. Here in the agenda, we're going to do a brief overview, prior public engagement, we'll go over that, our complete streets policy, equity in transportation, infrastructure funding, overview of grants, the MassDOT shared streets grants, explaining what transit signal prioritization is on Salem, Main, and Center Streets, and then we'll go more in depth into the Center Street proposal. High level, transit signal prioritization would allow buses and other emergency vehicles like police, fire, and ambulances, if we choose so, to communicate with our lights and ideally be able to get to and respond to emergencies quicker. On Center Street, we are proposing a similar project to what you see on Florence Street. The image of Florence Street is shown here on the right. The goals of this program, of this project, really high level, are one, to improve safety on Center Street, which is a portion of Route 60, and two, transit equity to facilitate low-income and BIPOC communities who are particularly served by transit in Malden or public transit in Malden. We also are looking to match Center Street in this corridor, which is currently 2 lanes, with the rest of Route 60, which is 1 lane. In Malden, as well as in other communities, it's in 1 lane in each direction, except for this one stretch. And decrease peak speeds, also known as speeding, and reduce travel times for all users, cars, buses, and bikes. This project is informed by prior public engagement. We did do a robust complete streets prioritization plan and policy. In 2016, the Complete Streets Task Force held that robust community engagement process with the help of MAPC, the Metropolitan Area Planning Council, and Tool Design, who is also helping us on this project. And they highlighted a need to address Center Street, which was highlighted as a significant area of community concern, specifically related to the crash clusters that you see here on the right. It is the corridor with the most crash clusters in Malden, both traditional crash clusters with vehicles as well as pedestrian crash clusters. But we've been doing our part, and we've been trying to get ahead of this situation. In 2016, through the leadership of Mayor Gary Christensen, the city developed and implemented a complete streets policy with the great help of Ward 1 Councilor Peg Crow. Just really quickly, a highlight of the objective of our complete streets policy. The city of Malden recognizes that users of various modes of transportation, including but not limited to pedestrians, cyclists, transit, and school bus riders, motorists, delivery and service personnel, freight haulers, and emergency responders are legitimate users of roadways and deserve safe accessibility. Quote, all users include users of all ages, abilities, and income levels. The city recognizes that all roadway projects, including new construction and maintenance and reconstruction, are potential opportunities to apply complete streets design principles. At that time, after it was implemented, Councilor Crow led the City Council to unanimously pass a resolution supporting that complete streets policy. The national dialogue here is also changing, under the leadership of Pete Buttigieg as the director of Department of Transportation. They've kind of talked about addressing the inequities built into the national transportation system, which would require dismantling and retooling decades worth of physical infrastructure and addressing a more subtle way to equally powerful culture that comes from the less visible parts of DOT's work, like setting standards of how roads are designed. So a big part of what you're seeing with these new infrastructure bills that are being presented by President Biden is a reinvestment and a lot of money going into our infrastructure. We view the proposed project here as getting us as a stepping stone towards that big bucks funding. Equity and transportation, what do we mean by that? Over the last 4 years, they were the most deadly in 3 decades. People are getting struck and killed by cars more and more and more. And one of the issues with that, it shouldn't be happening at all, which shows that our roads are not safe. But the burden is also not shared equally. As you'll see from this chart, BIPOC people are being disproportionately impacted by this. And why is that? It's also impacting older adults who are disproportionately killed by vehicle crashes. A lot of it is the fact that our roads were not built for living around. They were built for high speed travel, and this particular stretch that we're talking about, Center Street, goes through our most heavily pedestrian focused area in our community, our downtown, Malden Center, Malden Square. People are walking in lower income areas are struck and killed at much higher rates. In this particular area is an environmental justice area. And as we know, failing to act is consenting to more preventable deaths. We did have some recent pedestrian deaths, particularly of elders in different parts of our community recently. So how can we afford to make these changes? There are generally three different pots of money. The first one is Chapter 90 funds that come down from the state. The second one are local property taxes. That's property you pay. That's the taxes you pay on your house. That's the taxes you pay on your car. And what we're saying here is we don't want to touch those two pots of money. We have the ability to go for up to $1 million in state and federal grants through various grant programs called Community Connections, the Shared Streets and Spaces, and then there's a separate pot of money that we're not using, Complete Streets. So here, just to kind of give an overview, in the past, the city of Malden was eligible to receive between $500,000 and $300,000 for grant funding to make our roads safer. Back last year, just over $10 million was allocated to 103 municipalities. If you divide 10 million, 10.2 million divided by 103, it's just under $100,000. But Malden, we're batting above our weight, and we got $259,000 to make improvements to our roads. We have a good name when it comes to going for these types of grants because we do a good job. And this is one of the examples of what we did with it. We were able to get the express bus lane on Florence Street, which is kind of like a test study for what we're proposing here on Center Street. We were originally proposing over $1 million in grant funding. We did find out that some of the conversations and there was some concern that they heard about the Salem Street portion of this project. So the state did not approve that portion, but the state did approve Main Street and Center Street for $225,000. And we have gotten provisional approval. If we do have approval for the $491,000 for the project on Center Street. The total investment now is $716,000. So transit signal prioritization, really quick. The $225,000 for Main and Center Streets. We will get new brains for our traffic control signal boxes, which will communicate with buses as well as public safety vehicles, like I said earlier, fire, police, and ambulances. It would allow police and fire to kind of control those lights to help them get through the community in a quicker manner. And we have heard from some members of the force that getting through Center Street during particularly peak hours like rush hour is very difficult. So having this express lane would be very helpful. The city of Malden would maintain control of this system, and Main and Center Streets are now in scope. Salem Street is no longer in scope. So the Center Street proposal, I won't go through all the slides. I'm going to leave that to the MBTA, but we're talking about $491,000 here. And again, the more specific goals for this portion of the project is to increase pedestrian safety with new crosswalks and pavement markings, improve travel times for all modes of transit, by eliminating conflicts between buses and other vehicles that are trying to swerve around buses, extend and add more left and right turning lanes, retime the signals so that you no longer hit every red light as you're driving down Center Street. That's very frustrating for me. Instead, what we want is to see the green wave where you get a green light and then the next one turns green and the next one turns green. So you're driving more consistently through the entire corridor. One, it would also help improve the artificial bottleneck that we're creating from going in one lane in each direction on Route 60 and Eastern Ave to 2 lanes in each direction by the high school and Holden Street, and then back down to one lane over by the MBTA station. An added benefit, it would finally create a connection between the Northern Strand Trail and the MBTA station at Malden Center. So why this project? Daily bus ridership is over 7,600 on Center Street. It has a large low income and minority population that is served. The westbound going towards Malden Center, morning rush hour is 898 vehicles per hour. The eastbound direction in the evening is 908 per hour. A really important nota bene here, or important note, is that traffic volume at Jackson Street decreased from 2015 to 2018, showing that even before the COVID-19 pandemic, our traffic patterns in this particular corridor are trending downward because of changing patterns in terms of how people work. Another important thing to note here is that a single lane has a capacity of 1,200 cars per hour. And as you can see, those two figures of 898 and 908 are within that 1,200 vehicles per hour. This one corridor here on Center Street is one of the top 10 and the only one that has no plan to fix it. Delays in the MBTA's bus service. And it is a critical infrastructure for a lot of our community. And again, and I only have 2 more slides left, I believe. There are 10 bus routes served by this corridor of Center Street. The 99, the 101, the 104, the 105, the 106, the 108, the 131, the 137, the 411, and the 430. Again, 7,600 weekday riders. Again, it's an environmental justice community. And the demographics here are 36% non-white minority, 41% low income, and 31% are completely car-free households. And visuals are big for me. So this is going westbound. On the left here is the gas station in the Bank of America at Franklin Street. And then on the right here is that paint place. And then you'll get up to, I think the Malden Mills is on the left there. This is Eastern Ave, 1 lane in each direction. Right after this intersection by Linwood Street or by Malden Trans on the right and Sun Kong on the left, it goes to 2 lanes. This is where everyone starts speeding, not because we want to speed and we want to need for speed. It's just the lane ballooning like this encourages people to speed. And unfortunately, that median on the left was actually the site of a fatal crash my freshman year of high school. So speeding in this area is an issue. Again, it goes back down and to 1 lane right after our downtown. Here you'll see Malden, the McDonald's Stadium on the left. Again, we're still going westbound. There's the Malden Center parking lot on the right, as well as the fire station here. And it's approaching Pearl Street. You can see 1 lane going straight through, and there's a dedicated turning lane. That's all I have. I'd like to hand it off to the MBTA to get into more specifics.
Eric, you have something to add to that?
You're muted.
Thank you. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out how to share my screen and not unmuting myself. So do you see my presentation?
We do.
Okay, great. So I'll go through this pretty quickly because I don't want to duplicate the other information that was already shared. I'm Eric Berkman. I'm the Director of Transit Priority for the MBTA. And so what our group does is we're really professionals at helping implement this stuff and helping cities think through how their streets are more equitable for users, for all roadway users, not just car drivers, but rather also bus riders, pedestrians, and cyclists. So we have 4 staff, including me. We've implemented about 13 miles of bus lane in the past 2 years, about 64 TSP locations. So this isn't new for us, and we're available as a resource for any municipality that wants to work with us. You can see in the past, since 2015, we've pretty significantly expanded our bus lane projects in the region. So there's quite a few of your peer municipalities to look to when you're looking at these different projects all throughout the metro region. And during the pandemic, our focus has shifted a little bit. So as Councilor O'Malley mentioned, we have reduced the capacity on our buses to help support public health by about 50%. And so we're in the situation of trying to figure out how do we replace that system capacity when the vehicle capacity is reduced, right? So one of the ways we can do that is through speeding up the bus trip, making the travel time faster so we can fit the same number of or more trips into the same amount of time, and then the people spread out over more trips. So we've been identifying different corridors where we think that's a good approach, and Center Street is one of them, where the ridership has pretty much remained in the pandemic, or there's more ridership here than other parts of the system during the pandemic. And we think we can speed this up to help mitigate the crowding conditions. So visually, how does this work? So this orange and green bar represents an hour's worth of time. So you can see in the top version here, maybe you fit 2 trips into 1 hour and you spread 60 people across those trips. So 30 people per trip. If we put in the bus lane and we save some time and we can fit 3 trips in an hour, then we get 20 passengers per trip instead, and 20 passengers meets our crowding standard during the pandemic. So this slide is really the goal of what we're trying to do with our COVID recovery stuff. So as Councilor O'Malley mentioned, there's 10 different bus routes on this corridor. If you look in this map on the right, this little segment here is headed to the station. And so, I keep here, right here. And so you can see that all these orange lines throughout and around Malden actually benefit from the reliability improvement on Center Street, because all these people who are in Malden and people who are going beyond Malden, they're impacted by unreliability and by travel times on this segment. It's about 7,600 people per day, or 7,600 rides per day. 30, as Councilor O'Malley said, 30%, so 36% non-white, 41% low income, 32% of those are car-free households. And these are environmental justice areas as well. So this darker purple color is sort of the highest level of environmental justice area that's based on minority status, low income, and English isolation. And that's exactly where this project is, which is what we're trying to do to help people who are in environmental justice communities kind of get a benefit to their lives, right? And as was mentioned before as well, this is a high delay segment for the region. So I've calculated the amount of delay on here, and this is a standard for how we calculate delay, which is passenger delay hours. But it's a little bit confusing, I think. So basically a passenger delay hour would be 60 people delayed by 1 minute. So each of those 60 people is delayed by a minute, and that equals 1 delay hour, right? So over the course of the entire day, people on this corridor wait an extra 213 hours per weekday because of traffic delay on the bus. So that can be a pretty, that's pretty significant. That's about twice as much delay as we had in the Somerville Broadway project, which I know some of the councilors toured a couple weeks ago. Another takeaway here is that between the AM peak and the PM peak, it's about, there's not really a predominant peak direction, I think, in terms of delay, because if you look at this purple table here with the total delay, 61 versus 101, it's a little bit difficult to tell, which one would you go with a peak lane. It's really a pretty consistent all day delay, and it's 150 hours of delay outside the peak. So basically the proposal is bus lanes and bike lanes are closer to the station on Center Street, roughly between the station and Main Street, and then up to around Holden Street along Route 60 Eastern Ave would be bike lanes and general purpose lanes. So the idea is that by making this one lane consistently throughout the corridor, you don't have people merging out and then merging back in again and causing that delay. So I'm going to take a moment to jump over just briefly to the role plan that I presented at the meeting last week, just to show sort of what would happen here. We've got, this is the station right here. We're looking at like a bird's eye view, like you would be looking at Google Maps or your GPS in your car. And so this is the station here. So the bus lane and the bike lane comes up 1 block past Commercial Street into the station busway. Then this is the grocery store on the bottom right here. And we have the bus lane going to the right, and we've got the bus lane going to the left with bike lanes and 1 general purpose lane. We maintain the turning lanes to help ease the traffic flow. That was one of the things that we worked on in the design. As we continue down the corridor toward Main Street, you see the Stop and Shop directly to the bottom of the page. Pretty similar treatment, bike lane and bus lane. You have the bus pull out here again. And then as you approach Main Street, the bus lane in the eastbound direction toward Main Street stops to give the bus an opportunity to get over into the left lane. And we open back up to a left turn lane for cars, a through lane for cars, and a right lane for cars with the bike lane going through. And we're going to spin a little bit. And now the Bank of America is kind of at the bottom here. And this is just another little extension for the buses that are turning left onto Main Street. So now we're back to Center Street, Route 60, past Main Street. Here we reduced by one general purpose lane, as Councilor O'Malley mentioned, that there's still about an additional capacity for roughly 300 cars, even with one general purpose lane, to put in the bike lane here. And we still have the turn lanes in each direction to help ease the general purpose traffic flow. Continuing past Ferry Street with those turn pockets in the one general purpose lane and the bike lane. And then that stops at Holden Street, where cyclists can go on over to the Northern Strand Trail and be off the road completely. And then the lane reduction continues all the way to Franklin Street. So that's what that does is it eliminates people merging back down into one lane from two lanes and kind of helps ease the traffic flow throughout the corridor. So this is just describing the same roadway treatment. So if you're standing in the median and you're looking down the road, this is what is currently on Center Street. In the top here, you've got 3 pretty wide lanes in one direction, 2 in the other, or 2 through lanes in a turn lane in one direction, 2 lanes in the other. We would convert that into the bus lane, the bike lane, the through lane, keeping the turn lane, and then in the other direction, reallocating one of the lanes to a bus and a bike lane. This is just the same type of visualization for the other portion of it, where you see you still have the turn lanes here in the bottom. You have the right turn lane, the through lane, and the left lane. And then you have one general purpose lane in the other direction with additional capacity for about 400 cars in that lane as compared to today's traffic volumes. One thing I didn't mention is transit signal priority. There's not a visual on this page because one of the things that people like about transit signal priority is it's pretty much invisible. It just works in the background. So some things that a signal will do if it's enabled with transit signal priority is it can respond to traffic congestion. So it can sense the queue and say, I need to add more time to this arrow to let more cars through. It can sense an emergency vehicle. It can say, oh, there's a fire truck coming. Let me turn all the lights red, or let me make the lights in this direction green to get the traffic out of the way. The benefit to transit vehicles is it can actually extend the green light a little bit, not in an unlimited sense, but usually about 10 seconds or so to let the bus through, or it can shorten the red light for the bus. And then there's additional other benefits to this as well. Sometimes there's pedestrian sensing, there can be bike signaling. There's a lot of different options for a transit signal priority that can really benefit all the road users on the corridor. Then before I turn it back, we have got quite a few questions about this, so I just wanted to address some of the most common ones. One of the questions has been, could this be a peak-only bus lane like they have in Everett on Broadway? The difference with the Broadway project is that it's a parking conversion lane. So one of the things about this project is that it actually doesn't remove any parking. So we're converting a driving lane. There's no parking loss in the downtown area. So the bus lane in Everett converts the parking to a bus lane during the peak times. So for this to do that with a general purpose lane is pretty unusual. And we think it just adds more confusion to drivers, and there's still additional capacity for 400 cars roughly in the one general purpose lane as opposed to the 2. Will it impact general purpose traffic? The traffic analysis says that it won't really impact the general purpose traffic, but we'll still measure that to make sure that there isn't any disproportionate impact if the project is to go through. Some things that we've done to help with that is retaining those turn lanes, the left turn lanes, the right turn lanes, so that you can pull off when you're going to be making a turn, and standardizing the cross section to one lane throughout. Who pays for this? So we're supported by the Barr Foundation. The designer, the consultant tool design is supported by Barr Foundation. The implementation is paid for by the MassDOT grant. And then the maintenance, part of the capital expense that MBTA pays is getting an agreement from the municipality that the municipality covers the maintenance. We use a high durability red paint. It's actually crushed glass that's glued to the pavement, which we expect to last. The manufacturer says 10 years. We're thinking we're going to be happy if we get about 7 from it, 5 to 7, but it may be the full 10. Typically in our other projects, the markings have outlasted or have lasted until the road needs to be repaved. And then let's see. We've had several prior meetings on this. We had 3 in March, 1 last week, and then of course the one today, which is open to the public. That's another question that, oh, I have 2 of these slides, okay. And then also another frequently asked question is what do the markings mean? So these narrow markings, I think of it as like a crosswalk kind of, alerts the driver that you're crossing over a lane that is going to be used by a bus. And so as you're crossing over this, just remember, you shouldn't be blocking this area and you should be looking for, looking for other users of the space like the bus. The turn lane here is indicating that that's a space you can occupy for a turn. So when the lane breaks, you merge into the turn lane and you make your right turn. And as you merge, you're looking for the bus and you're looking for pedestrians that may be crossing the street here. But that's a way to fit in additional turn lanes in the bus lane. And then, as I mentioned before, we collect a lot of data on an ongoing basis on delay, on ridership, et cetera. So this project would be no different. And we're always available as a resource for municipalities to help say, this really is working like we thought, or it's not working. We think we need to make these other changes. So travel time, reliability, surveying, qualitative feedback, we're here to help, right? And then this is just an overview of the different grant opportunities which Councilor O'Malley went through before. So finally, this is my last slide. If the council were to approve this tonight, we would move quickly to work with the city to finalize the design details and hope to implement by May 31st, which is the requirement of the grant. And then the evaluation is ongoing after the project is implemented and we're available to make tweaks and to understand, what is really happening, what's working, what's not working. And then the other grant, the Community Connections Grant for Main Street TSP, that would be an anticipated decision in fall 2021. So I know that was a lot of information. It was pretty quick. This is a beautiful photo of the Florence Street bus lane. And that's my email address. If you want to contact me or have any other questions, feel free, and I will give my time back. Sorry, it was a little longer than I thought.
So thank you, Eric. Okay, would you take your screen share down, please? Okay, so for those public who are wishing to speak, we'll ask you to, I'm not sure I can see how your names, well, maybe I can. I think I can see your names coming up on the attendee list if you'll raise your hand. Councilor Tsige, you got some advice for me here?
I do actually. You have to declare the portion of the public hearing open.
I will.
And then you should probably do for and against instead of just letting everybody speak.
I'll do that as well. I'm just trying to figure out the.
No, that's all right. I wasn't. You sounded like you were going to just start letting people speak, so I just wanted to make sure that you opened the public hearing portion of this meeting.
No.
I don't think we've done that yet. So.
No, we have not done that yet.
Okay.
There are a couple of ways, I guess, people can wish to speak. Those who are listed as our attendees, if you raise your hands, they will come up in the order in which you raise your hand, and I will let you speak from that. So anyone wishing to speak, raise your hand, and I will take you in the order in which they come. I'm seeing hands being raised now. I'm seeing some of the hands that I saw that were listed as in the Q&A, names coming up, so that's fine. So given that, we're gonna, there's a number of people who would like to speak, so I'll ask you all as you speak that if you'll please be as brief and as direct as you can, because there are gonna be a lot of people who want to speak. We have some decisions to make. We've got a lot of people that have indicated through their letters that they're for it, and a lot of people who have indicated through their letters they're against it. So we want to hear from you, and that's why we're having this public hearing this evening. So I'm going to start by declaring the public hearing open, and I'm going to ask anyone who is in favor of this paper to speak first. So we're going to open up anyone wishing to speak in favor of the position, this paper before us. I'm going to go, I see the names with their hands up, and I will find out, first off, the top name I see is Kerry Pike, I guess it is. And I just want to make sure that, Kerry, are you to speak in favor? Kerry, I've unmuted you.
Okay, can you hear me?
I can hear you. Are you speaking in favor or against?
In favor, please.
Okay, there you go. You have the floor, Kerry.
Thank you very much. So I have one question also. Councilor O'Malley talked about the green wave, and I just wondered if we're retiming the signals on Center Street for the green wave, are we setting those timings for 25 miles an hour? Because I'm a traffic engineer by training, full disclosure. And so if you set a certain speed for that progression of the green wave of traffic signals, if you're going faster or slower than that, you will get stuck at every red light, which I think is what we want for, for the citywide speed limit of 25, correct? So I just wanted to raise that as a question.
So Councilor O'Malley has given us the thumbs up. The answer to that question is yes.
Very good. And so I want to say I'm very much in favor of these bus and bike improvements in the downtown. I think it's great to see the Northern Strand connection over to Malden Center Station, increasing the bus reliability, and then, presumably at some point we'll get through this pandemic situation and, we'll still have those improvements. So as the MBTA is able to go back to, higher ridership, we will still have those improvements for folks who, either choose to or have to ride the bus. So I just wanted to say I'm very much in favor of these improvements. And oh, by the way, 7 Preston Street in Malden is my address.
Yeah, that was the question. Yes, I want you to please also to give us your name and your address. And Mr. Lucy, did you catch that address?
I most certainly did. Yes, thank you.
It's okay. All right, Kerry, thank you very much.
Thank you.
John Mayara? You are allowed to speak. Let me see if I can do this right now.
Am I now unmuted?
You are now unmuted, sir. Yes.
I'm John Mayara from 68 Washington Street, Apartment 2 in Malden. So I'm speaking in favor. There's going to be some arguments about equity and mobility, and I support those, and I'm glad we already heard from a traffic engineer. But I want to emphasize business development. So we should think about how we can bring more activity and visitors to Center Street, sort of the way that Pleasant Street is, right? That's one of the most active areas in the city. And yet Center Street, where a lot of people travel through, isn't nearly as active. It's got traffic and people driving, but there's only maybe 2 places in that stretch that people go to hang out, Gong Cha Tea and maybe Jay's. And that's really all you get. Everybody else has a parking lot in front, people drive in, go in, and then take off. So improving the appeal of a neighborhood could be a major goal, and having a bus lane could be part of that. So when we think about voting on the bus lanes, think about what's better for the city. Is it better to have people who are driving on the street, which does not distinguish between local traffic or through traffic, people just going through and not stopping off, or people doing more in the city, spending money and spending time? So I think that bus lanes, have been shown to kind of fuel that local sort of footfalls that we're looking for. So I would encourage you to at least consider that as part of one of the things that we could do, as not merely a bus lane, but as part of a program to drive more activity and business and get more money out of the downtown area. Thanks.
All set?
Yep, that's it.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Stacy Gilchrist? You are allowed to speak.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can. Would you please give us
Great.
we see your name?
Yes.
But we need the correct address, please.
Absolutely. I'm in Ward 5 at 92 Porter Street.
92 Porter Street. So you're wishing to speak in favor?
I am, yes. I'm
Go right
speaking-
ahead.
Thank you. I'm speaking in favor of this proposal. I've been in Malden for 15 years and got my license for the first time ever only 5 years ago, which means that for the first 10 years, including pushing a baby stroller, I was pedestrian only in Malden. And all of the improvements that have benefited pedestrians and bicyclists and other modes of transportation have really changed the city for the better. I want to thank the city councilors for becoming more and more aware of the needs of pedestrians. A number of years ago, I attended a community working group. I believe the Venerable Sharon Santillo arranged for it. A walkability expert came and showed us very much like those maps, those crash clusters all along Route 60. And many city councilors attended and many city employees, more to listen than to participate. And then it concluded with that guest taking the group on a walk from Old Malden City Hall to Center Street, crossing Center Street, and the group discussed all of the things that weren't working. The most disappointing part of that for me was that not a single city councilor opted to go on the walk. Not a single Malden employee opted to go on the walk. And so this more recent change of attitude that this is actually important to Malden is very welcome. The one question that I do have, and this I don't think would change my opinion being in favor of, they mentioned that the paint job would likely last until the city needs to be repaved. And I'm wondering about when it is time to repave it, the cost of reapplying the paint for designating the lanes. And is that something we need to think ahead for? Thank you for this opportunity.
Thank you. Next to speak, Greg Arne. Did I pronounce that right?
Yes, that's me. Can you hear me?
We can, yes. Your address, please.
I'm at 61 Las Casas Street in Malden.
And you have the floor, sir.
Thank you. So I'm speaking in favor. I've lived in Malden for over 10 years, and when I came here, I didn't have a car. I used my bike to get around. Now I chose to stay here because I see all of the energy that's going into this city and its leadership and its city council in making Malden a better place, not just to drive through and drop your trash on the road in, but to live in and raise a family in. And so I am actually here because I saw some neighbors raising some concerns about this, and I decided that I would look into it. One of the concerns is about funding more money for bike lanes, but it seems like we got a big grant on the horizon, so that looks good. Another concern was the question of how many people take public transit or how many people take bikes. And I thought about that question for a little bit, and I realized, you know, like 200 years ago when there weren't cars on the roads, and people buying cars and it's just a dirt road, it's like, why would you even need to pave these roads? Nobody has a car. Well, you need a certain amount of infrastructure to support public transit and to support bike users in order for people, especially bicyclists, to feel safe coming out. But even public transit, if it's slow and it's hard to catch a bus, I mean, people aren't going to want to use it. Anyone who's been to New York City knows that if you build a good public transit system, everybody wants to get on it. And then another concern, I think, was about traffic congestion. And I think there's some difficulty here in understanding systems thinking and how a complex system works. And, you know, it looks like, oh no, they're reducing lanes, but actually what we're doing is redistributing, reassigning those lanes so that they can be used in a more sensible way to avoid, you know, these merging activities and bus pulling in and pulling out and just causing all of this confusion. And, you know, the analogy I would think about is like, if you think about the throughput of water coming into my house, if I have this massive tube somewhere in my house and I shrink it, it doesn't change the volume of water that can come in or go out of the house unless it gets smaller than the tubes that are inputting the water or outputting the water from the house. So it, you know, I think that when you think about how the system works, I'm glad to see that due diligence was done here to study the impact on traffic congestion and that there's a follow-up plan to monitor that. And so my last comment is, you know, for the councilors considering voting against this proposal, I do hope that you've done as much due diligence, and I hope you can explain your stance clearly, because it feels like a vote against this would be a vote to hold Malden back, unless you've done some kind of, maybe I missed some part of that, but I really do hope that if you're voting against this, you have a good reason and good evidence, because I'm not seeing it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Gregory. Maria Jenko and Ted Brookings, allowed to speak?
Can you hear us?
We can.
Awesome, thank you. Well, so we live at 11 Wyoming Avenue in Malden, and I'll speak first and then Ted will speak. I know there's a lot of people, so I just wanted to say that I am definitely in support of this proposal. I'm super excited about it for all the reasons people have already covered. One of the major reasons we moved here was because of the public transit accessibility. So the idea of, strengthening the public transit is great and hopefully will decrease the traffic. I also wanted to say, I don't tend to bike around the city, and I think it goes to this idea of infrastructure is I just don't feel safe biking on the roads. But I think that there's many people like myself who, if the infrastructure was there, would be much more likely to bike rather than take my car into the city. And so I'm really hoping that, thank you to the councilors who started this initiative, pushed it forward, and I really hope that the city council supports it. So I'll let Ted.
Yeah, I don't want to add too much other than to say that I have, in fact, lived in places where there was kind of more ability to bike safely around, and found that not only was that really just a really great way to get around, but also it made the city kind of feel a lot easier to move around in, because so many people do avail of that capability, that then there's just so much less congestion on the roads too, because you can cram so many bikers in and so many people into a bus, that I think those of us who choose to bike make the driving experience better for those who either need or choose to drive. That's it for me.
All right.
Thanks.
Thank you, Maria and Ted. Karen Cologne-Hayes, you're allowed to speak.
Good evening. Thank you.
Good evening.
Thank you for allowing this public comment on this really important issue. My name is Karen Cologne-Hayes. I live at 105 Wyoming Avenue. I'm speaking in support of Resolve 144-21. I would like to thank Councilors O'Malley, Winslow, and Eric Berkman for the very detailed and well thought out community presentations they've been giving. I've attended most and have learned a lot. There have been a lot of conversations happening in the community, which is always a good thing. A couple of things that stood out to me, which lead me to support this project, are one, it is in alignment with the mayor and the city council's unanimous vote to pass a resolution supporting the complete streets budget, and will increase pedestrian safety and wheelchair accessibility with new crosswalks and pavement markings. And I am a data-driven person, and from what was presented and from the studies in our surrounding cities, show that these additions will improve travel times for all modes of traffic. The transit signal prioritization will allow public safety vehicles to be prioritized for green lights and gives the police and fire control of traffic signals. We didn't own a car either when we first moved here to Malden for at least 10 to 15 years, and we only bought when we had kids. I use many modes of transportation: bike, walking, subways, and buses, and I don't fault anyone for whatever works best for their family. I don't see this as a bike lane or a bus lane grant. This is a combination of funding that will make our city more accessible and safe for all modes of transportation. And based on real data, not anecdotal, it shows it will decrease traffic. I know there's a lot of concern about this project, but the great thing about it is there'll be no demolition. It will be done with paint, which means if we find that this did not work out the way we expected, it can be easily and inexpensively changed. So I really believe that we should be taking this low risk, bold move that will be bringing Malden forward. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Next will be Sunish Uturka. I hope I pronounced that properly. You're allowed to speak.
Yeah, Soonish, and you don't have to worry about the last name. I live at.
Would you pronounce that again for me?
Yeah, it's Oderkar.
Oderkai.
Yeah.
Boy, I was really up. I'm sorry. Oderkai.
There's lots of different
Now
ways.
that I see that, yes, I can see Oderkai. Okay.
Yeah, Oderkar. Yep. But I live at 19 Hillside, Unit 1, 19 Hillside Ave, Unit 1 in Ward 1. I am both a frequent biker and a frequent driver. So I deal with all of the traffic lights and the traffic and dodging other bikers and trying to be safe with pedestrians. I'm also a biker trying to dodge cars and pedestrians and other bikers. And so I kind of see both worlds. And I am in huge support of this initiative for all the reasons that were laid out, for all the reasons that people said before me. I bike in a lot of different places in and around the city. I've biked in other cities before. And this area that is being proposed feels like some of the most dangerous to me. I still bike regardless, but I do so with a high amount of caution. And so I just wanted to say that, as a biker and a driver of Malden, that I'm a big fan of this.
Okay. Thank you very much. Amy, you're allowed to talk.
Hello, Amy Friedman, 8 Marvin Street. I live in Ward 8, and I would like to speak in favor of this resolution for many of the reasons that have already been stated, so I won't restate those, but for one reason that I haven't heard yet, which is that both of my children rely on transportation to get to school. I have a son who rides the bus to the high school. So he relies on transport by bus through that route, which is important for him to get to school on time, as I'm sure is true for many other students. And I have another child who rides a school bus to the BB school from Ward 8 through that route each day as well. Of course, I also drive through that route. And I think that this resolution and this proposition to make these changes to Route 60 will benefit people who use all modes of transportation. And I speak in favor. I appreciate your time.
Thank you. Next, we'll ask Samuel Sprangel. You're allowed to speak.
Hello, can you hear me? Hello?
We hear you.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Hi, I'm Sam Sprangel. I live at 49 Cleveland Street, and I want to speak in favor of this project. I think that, so as a new resident to Malden, I'm very, I just recently bought a house here, and I'm, very in favor of this project because it'll do two things. First, I think that'll make, people want to live in Malden and, broaden our community and make our community more vibrant, because they'll see all the infrastructure and the time and energy that goes into making our city more smart, more beautiful, just generally look better. Secondly, like I said, just recently bought a house here. And one thing that I'm really excited about with this project is that as I, age and grow older and, have my license taken away or whatever it may be, whatever life will throw at me, it'll allow me to still live comfortably in Malden, knowing that these public infrastructure and transportation projects are, being used. So it makes me want to live here. I think that it's going to attract people to come live here, and it's also going to keep them here forever, for their life. So I'm hugely in favor.
Thank you, Samuel. Isobel, you're allowed to speak.
Hi, thank you. My name is Isobel Eddy, and I live at 58 Blomworth Street in Malden. I'm also speaking in favor. I don't have very prepared remarks, but this is such a great project that will contribute to other work that's being done to modernize our roadways. by increasing modes of transportation that can safely and efficiently use the road without slowing vehicle traffic, like car vehicle traffic. So I appreciate that. I appreciate the focus on environmental justice, on investing in public transit, which of course is greener, and to improve bus reliability, and the focus on connecting Malden Center Station to the Northern Strand Trail with bike lanes. And I want to point out that that means that the new city hall and businesses, and where we've recently had so much investment in Malden, would also approximately be connected to the Northern Strand Trail as well. So I just think passing this resolution makes a lot of sense, and I want to thank the city councilors who've worked on it.
Thank you. Carrie McDonald, you're allowed to speak.
Hi, can you hear me?
We certainly can.
Thank you. Just to underscore so much of what's already been said, I think rarely does the council get an opportunity to vote on such a clear choice. This is basically free money to make things better for everyone and save lives, and especially for the folks who really rely on public transportation. I have taken the bus regularly for years, and that last stretch on Center Street is just a killer and such a delay. Appreciation to Councilors O'Malley and Winslow for the process here of all the public input. And the only thing that I am a little disappointed about is actually, frankly, that the pieces that they named about equity, like who is being killed in traffic stop, disabled folks, Black, Indigenous people of color, was not actually just front and center. Seems like a city like ours with the kind of commitments to diversity and the city that we want to be should be putting that as like the first thing that we talk about in considerations like this. And so would love to see this affirmed, go forward with that commitment at the center. Thank you.
Thank you. Audrey, you're allowed to talk. Audrey is using an old version of Zoom. Choose promote to panelist. Hold on one second, Audrey. We're going to promote you to a panelist, and I think that'll allow you. Audrey, I think you can talk now.
Sorry about that. I'll have to update my Zoom. This is actually Robert, Audrey's husband. So Robert Toronto of 33 Plaisted Road. And I'd like to express my strong support for this proposal due to our city's need for reliable public transportation, as well as the added safety benefits from the proposal. I've commuted to the south end by bike, bus, and car, and the bus lanes of this sort that are on Washington Street dramatically improve my commute in all three modes of transportation. And then lastly, I just note that reliable public transportation keeps people out of cars. It keeps frustrated commuters from calling ride shares, and just it helps avoid that extra congestion that we get from people calling Ubers, calling Lyfts when they're sitting at Malden Center and a bus isn't coming. So thank you for the opportunity to speak.
Thank you. Stephanie Walla, you're allowed to talk.
Hello, can everybody hear me?
We can hear you.
Great, thank you. Yeah, I mean, I know I'm coming in late here, and I'm just going to be echoing everything everybody has already said, but to me, some of the things that stand out most here are the equity and inclusion opportunities that we can take with this and the benefits that it would serve, as well as improving traffic for all modes of travel. I've attended several of these meetings now all on the same topic. And one thing that was mentioned in previous meetings as well is how traffic congestion will be smoother because cars will actually spend less time at lights now that there is like with this new proposed system. I echo what some of my community members have already said as well, in that I would also bike to downtown if I felt safer doing so, and if there was infrastructure in place for that, and that this should help bring more people into the city center, frequenting the businesses there and making Malden a more attractive place for people to be and hang around, especially in the summer. And a vote against this would hold Malden back. I'm somebody who pre-COVID times and definitely post-vaccine times will be a commuter, and every single day I've been stuck in that peak traffic period of time, and the bus that I have to get on when I'm able to fight to get on it turns away people a lot of elderly people, a lot of young families, and it adds to the commute. If I'm not able to get on a bus, then because of the congestion and because of the poor traffic signaling, I sometimes have to wait at the T station 30 minutes just to get onto the next bus, if I'm even able to get onto that one. I'm largely in favor, and thank you so much for putting together this presentation.
Thank you. Next, Ariane Taylor. You're allowed to talk.
Thank you so much. My name is Ari Taylor. I'm at 57 Mount Vernon Street, and I did already submit a comment to City Clerk Lucy, but I wanted to just follow that up and bring up a point that I don't think has been brought up. I'm an avid driver. I will often jump in my car for most things, and I fully support this because I would feel safer knowing that there's a bike lane, there's a bus lane, there's room for everybody in the community. And I wanted to add that feedback in addition to what I had already sent in the other comments that we heard tonight. And that is also, I'm in support of this. And thank you so much.
You're certainly welcome. Next to speak is Ho Yin. You're allowed to talk. Did we lose Ho Yin? I don't see or hear Ho Yin. And
He's still on the attendee list, it looks like.
say that again.
He looks like he's still on the attendee list.
Let me see if I can reach back to that. And, I hope I didn't drop him. You see, I see Ho Yen. Let me allow him again. Ho Yen, are you there?
Hey, can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. Yes, we can.
All right, cool. Finally, I'm muted. I'm Ho Yen Ao, 710 Main Street, Ward 4. I'm speaking in favor of this proposal for all the reasons already mentioned. I moved here 33 years ago and have lived here for most of my life. So I get around primarily by walking, biking, and also taking public transit, but I also drive. So just, making sure that you guys know that. But everyone in my house they're in their 90s and in late 60s, they all walk or take public transit. So we stayed in Malden because of how convenient it was to get around. And I constantly worry for my and their safety while trying to get to the other side of Route 60 to reach businesses like Super 88 on Commercial Street, Super Stop and Shop, AFC Urgent Care, Szechuan's, and Yongyong, just to list some examples. So I strongly believe that having traffic calming measures along Route 60 will greatly benefit all users. Pedestrians, it will be safer to cross, but also there's established studies saying that traffic calming measures also reduce automobile accidents. Lastly, this is something that haven't heard anybody mention yet, but having this infrastructure in place will also make our downtown core much more vibrant in the future as the Northern Strand Trail is extended further south to Somerville and connected to the rest of the bicycling network in the greater Boston region. So, we can bike down to Assembly Square, but they can also bike up to us, which will open much more opportunities and economic growth in the downtown area. So again, I'm speaking in favor of this proposal, and I want to thank the city councilors for setting aside the time to discuss this, and I hope that it passes. Thank you, and good night.
Thank you. I don't see any more hands that are raised. I'm looking at the question and answer to see if there was anyone else that has indicated that they wanted to speak, and I don't see anyone else. Anyone else? I see a few more hands that have just popped up. Eunice Torres, are you to speak in favor of this? You're allowed to speak.
Yes, I'm voting in favor.
Would you tell us your address, please?
18 Vernon.
And would you tell us why you're voting in favor?
Well, I've lived in Malden since '94, and I've walked all over the place. And one of the dangerous places is Center Street, trying to cross from, like if you're coming from Jackson to go to Stop and Shop, and you're trying to cross that, and the traffic is sometimes unpredictable, and it's very difficult to cross to get to Stop and Shop. And I have always had trouble, but in the last few years, it's gotten better with the traffic lights, but it still have those speeders that are zooming down 60 that have scared me, that I've refused to step out onto the street to cross because I see them coming too fast. My only question is, or my only observation is that when the other day I was walking on Washington Street heading towards Florence, I noticed someone in the red lane. I assumed they were making a right turn onto Washington Street. Instead, they went straight. So I think we need also to educate drivers who English may not be their first language, what we're doing with these colors. I don't think a lot of people understand what the colors mean. And it just that's the reason I put in was to share my experience on Florence Street with that one car that kind of threw me off a little bit. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I see the letters DAPS. I'm not sure that is a name. DAPS? You're allowed to talk.
Hi, Council President Anderson. Thank you so much. This is David Senatilica.
Okay, and your address, David?
Yeah, I'm Ward 1, Precinct 2, Perkins Avenue, Malden.
What number?
Ward 1, Precinct 2, Perkins Avenue.
Mr. Lucy, did you get that?
Yes, I did.
Okay.
Oh,
yes, sir.
yeah,
Go right ahead.
Oh, thank you so much. I would like to speak in favor of this proposal, strongly in favor. I also like to thank City Councilor Ryan O'Malley for presenting, and Eric Bergman, and all the councilors for giving us the opportunity to speak. I mean, this is a great opportunity. This is kind of democracy in action here. There's so many positives to why this is needed. I speak from someone that currently doesn't own a car. I currently walk and take public transit, buses and the subway 7 days a week. Buses are full, buses are crowded. They're only going to get more crowded as the pandemic ends and more people return to work. The patterns of work are going to change. I see it now. Buses are extremely crowded. I mean, I wish I could send up pictures, but I've taken pictures on Malden buses that it's standing room only right now. When the pandemic ends, it's going to get even worse. I mean, we talk a lot about, supporting essential workers and people that are transit dependent, but this is something that will really make a direct impact in their lives. This is something that will get people to work faster, to school, to education opportunities, help directly improve people's lives. This is a social justice issue. This is an equity issue. This is a public safety issue. This is an environmental issue. There's so many pluses of this. And the money it's state money. This is a MassDOT grant that if we don't take advantage of it, it's going to go to another city. Everett has done it. Cambridge, Arlington, Somerville. I think even Reading is working on one of the MassDOT grants like this. So many other cities are taking advantage of this. I just see no reason why we should be left behind. But from a business development standpoint, it makes sense. This is going to help expand downtown, make it more walkable, make it more vibrant, help support businesses. This is not going to hurt businesses. I really see this as supporting businesses. by getting some of the, the traffic to we're removing conflicts with cars. We're improving buses, allowing people to bike, and also improving walkability at the same time, because it just creates a safer environment for people to walk in. I think this is going to support local businesses. I think this is going to help that. I'd like to speak to the environmental point of view. We're asking people to do the right thing by taking transit or walking or biking, but we're not supporting them. I'm constantly on buses that are full, that are stuck behind single occupancy vehicles not moving. This will enable buses to bypass, get to the station faster, turn around, drop people off, be able to pick up more passengers. I mean, we have aggressive goals that we need to meet as a Commonwealth, as a nation, and the world too. U.S. just rejoined the Paris Climate Accords. Massachusetts has aggressive goals to meet by very specific metrics. By 2040, we have to reduce carbon. Transportation is a major contributor to carbon. We're asking people to try to ride transit more, try to walk, try to bike, be healthier, but we're not supporting them. And this is something that will do that. So, I mean, there's so many different points that I think this is valuable, but I'm speaking to that, and I am in support. Thank you.
Thank you, David. Barbara Kim, do you still have your hand up? Barbara, you're allowed to talk.
Thank you, Councilor Anderson. Thank you, city councilors. I know that you guys have heard from me. I just want to state I am in favor. My address is 79 Boylston Street. And I know that the way these meetings are set up, you hear for and then against. And so as you hear the against arguments, I really would like to hear what is being said against this. This is really a data-driven proposal, and I do understand the fear and the belief that this will cause more traffic and congestion in the corridor, and the data just doesn't prove that out. And so I really appreciate the councilors considering taking this opportunity, let it see what happens, showing what the data shows that this will improve the corridor for all users, buses, for pedestrians, and even for people who are riding their personal vehicles. Thank you for your time.
You all set? Okay, thank you. So I don't see any other hands raised. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Please raise your hand. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? We do have, maybe this is the right time to read those petitions in favor, Mr. Lucy?
I do, I have them.
Councilor Anderson, really fast. I don't know, Nikita is waving her hand. I don't know if she is wishing to speak or if.
Oh, she's fanning herself.
Okay.
Nikita, are you wishing to speak?
She's muted.
Okay, let's see why.
I just want to make sure that if she wants to speak.
Okay.
I think, Neil, we would have to everybody would have to go to her translation channel in order for Nikita to speak, just the way it's set up. I think that's Ron Cochran was explaining that. So Nikita, okay. Let's see if I can find your channel. I don't know.
She just was waving her hand, so I don't know if she's talking and using her hands, but I didn't know if she needed to speak either.
Let me see if I can find her name on. I thought she was elevated to a panelist. She is.
I switched to
So
French. I
let's-
think I can hear her.
What channel?
I can hear you because I switched to the French channel.
I can hear it on French too.
Okay, all right. I just
Switch to the
looked
French
like she
channel.
was trying to get his attention, so I just wanted to make sure that she didn't have to say anything.
Yeah, on the French
Yes.
channel. Yeah.
So what is it you think that she's doing? You think she's talking on a,
I think she's using her hands to talk.
I can hear you.
French.
you can hear her?
I can hear you too. We can hear you
I
from
can
the
hear
French
it.
channel. Yep.
I hope one of you will tell me when she is finished, because I can't hear a thing that she's saying.
Thank you.
Thanks, Nikita.
Ryan, what's the thumbs up? Who's that to?
Me, sorry. So Nikita was on the
Bye.
French channel.
So
Do
I
you
don't know
want
how
me
we
to-
go back now.
She spoke in favor. She's at 645 Cross Street in Ward 5. And she would like training for different languages about what we're implementing.
So she has said all that she is going to, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah, because everyone would need to switch to the French interpretation channel in order to
Okay.
hear what Nikita was saying.
Okay, so for those of you who don't know what's going on, we've hired a few interpreters, and those who wish to speak in the different languages have tuned into those channels. That's for the edification of those others who are listening. So it sounds like she's finished. And so I don't see anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this petition? Seeing none and hearing none.
I see Nick.
There's a
Nick.
hand raised
Neil,
in
there's
the
a Nick.
attendees.
There's a Nick. Nick Schonberger.
Okay. Nick, you're allowed to speak.
Hi, thank you so much. Nick Schoenberger, 134 Salem Street. I am in favor of this. I think it's a great opportunity to, I don't see a downside, I guess I would say. I think it increases safety. It makes it faster for traffic vehicles for emergency response. I think that's an important part that hasn't been said, but otherwise, as a biker and as a driver, I'm in favor of this. So I look forward to seeing what the council has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Nick. Okay. Anyone else? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Mr. Lucy, would you give us a summary of those letters that you've received in favor?
So I received 32 in total. I took out 3 because they spoke on the Zoom. There's another one that I left in because the person spoke, but it was just a little bit to her letter, so I left her letter actually in. So I have 29 letters. Most of them are brief, so it won't take that long to go through them.
The floor is yours, sir. Go right ahead.
Okay. You take a sip of water first.
And then once Mr. Lucy finishes these letters that are written in support, I'm going to ask anyone who wishes to speak, any of our attendees wishing to speak in opposition to this, if you will please raise your hand when Mr. Lucy is finished. So Mr. Lucy, go right ahead.
Dear Clerk Lucy, my name is Sarah Rawling. I'm a Ward 6 resident living at 25 Stanton Street. I am writing in support of the MassDOT MBTA grant project proposed by Councilors O'Malley and Winslow. This is a great project with the opportunity for Malden to use grant funds to improve transportation and street layouts for the city of Malden. I feel strongly that we should take advantage of these grant programs to improve all types of transportation through Malden. As someone who takes the bus regularly through Malden Center, I would be very happy to have a dedicated bus lane that would decrease the amount of time the bus spends in traffic on Center and Main Streets. Dear Clerk Lucy, please read my comments to the record. I'm writing to express my strong support for the proposed improvement to Route 60, backed by traffic planning data and long overdue for the seniors, low-income residents, and other residents of Malden who depend on bus service through that corridor. I want to express my gratitude to Councilors O'Malley and Winslow for pursuing these funds to improve quality of life in Malden and urge the council to approve this project. Caitlin Peel Sloan, 69 Columbia Street. Dear Clerk Lucy, I'm writing to have my support for MassDOT MBTA Complete Street Grant Project proposed by Council Winslow and O'Malley, filed as a matter of public record and shared as a public comment. As I understand it, this project will improve safety and access for cyclists and pedestrians in key areas of downtown Malden, including the creation of dedicated bike lanes. I strongly support these improvements as a long-term Malden homeowner who commutes by bike and who is raising 3 children who are increasingly avid cyclists. Improving safety for bikers is a major priority for our family, and we're excited to see the city responding with the project and others. Thank you, Andrew Spofford, 25 Greystone Road. Dear Clerk Lucy, I'm writing to have my support for the data-driven MassDOT MBTA grant project proposed by Council Winslow and O'Malley, filed a matter of public record, shared a public comment. This grant, which cost the residents of Malden nothing, is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and reliable transportation for all of us. Road DX have been used across this country for over 20 years, reducing peak speeds while maintaining average speeds through urban corridors. There are local projects in Arlington and Watertown/Cambridge that demonstrate that these projects work, creating a safer street environment for everyone. Opposition to this project has provided no evidence to support their claim that this will make traffic worse. Transportation policy in this city should be based on facts, not on people's beliefs or fears. Thank you. It's Candace Uriselak, and I don't have an address. There are a few people on Facebook group Malden Mass Politics showing plans to implement bike and bus lanes on the 2-lane stretch on Route 60 through downtown Malden. Some urging Maldonians to write you with opinions about it. For what it's worth, I like the plan. I moved to Malden in 2005 and spent my share of time on buses and in Malden traffic. These days, I mostly drive, and a fair amount of that have been cross town to my kids' schools, 2.5 miles away. This looks like it'll calm things a bit and encourage multi-modal transit. Sure, there's a bike path through town, but it relies heavily on unprotected crosswalks across busy roads through downtown. I'm not sure I trust it in a way as my 6th grader to get to school. A bike would probably be ideal if there were more cyclists generally. We're not there yet, but infrastructure can get us there. Tom Donahue, 16 Boston Street. Dear Clerk Lucy, I'm writing to show my support for the data-driven MassDOT MBTA shared street grant project proposed by Council Winslow and O'Malley, and that it may be shared as a public comment. I believe it will provide us an opportunity to improve our transportation options, safety, and roadway traffic. Thank you, Colin Wade, at 10 Linwood Street, apartment number 315. I'm writing in support of MassDOT MBTA grant project current under consideration proposed by Council Winslow and O'Malley with regards to Center Street and Route 60. The proposed changes would be a substantial improvement in my life, which involves walking or e-scooting these streets daily on my way to work. The crossing of the Center Street feels like I'm putting my life in danger every time I do it, and it would be a big deal to reduce that risk. If anything, this proposal does not go far enough. I'd like to see 2 further extensions. First, I think the bike lanes on Center Street should be physically separated, not just painted. Although the traffic calming will help keep bike riders safe, truly separated bike lanes are the only way to actually keep bikers safe. And do those and do those that ask what bikers, the answer is no one wants to bike when they're probably going to get killed. If we build safe infrastructure, bikers will come. Second, this project should be prepared to integrate with a successful Spot Pond Greenway project now, because the point at which canal dead ends into Center Street should be fixed for pedestrian and biker access to downtown Malden now, to facilitate micromobility users and pedestrians direct access to all that Malden Center has to offer. Or maybe we could just fix Canal Street so that it has protected bike lanes and wider sidewalks as part of the expansion of this grant. As the following images of deeply worn paths of desire between the North Strand and Canal Street show, there is already ample need for that connection. These pictures that went along with that. To whom it may concern, I'm writing to have my support for the data-driven MassDOT MBTA grant project proposed by Council Winslow and O'Malley, filed the matter public record and shared as public comment. I applaud this effort to make real meaningful improvements to the transit in Malden. I think we need to see far more of these steps taken in the future. Malden is quite a bit behind in the area. We were only debating a modest and obvious bus bike lane down on a multi-lane arterial, while our neighbors have been working on BRT for years with great results. Everett is clearly working on a dedicated bus lane all the way to Boston. Imagine what such a lane could do for the East Malden if implemented. Improving bus connection from East to West Malden is a very basic and measured step that I fully support. Thank you, Derek Egerman, 98 Lebanon Street. This grant is an opportunity to improve traffic flow and encourage reliable transportation for all. With bike lanes, more individuals would feel safe to bike to the MBTA station, which would reduce car ridership and overall traffic. I lived in Alston for 8 years and biked 5 miles every day to work through Cambridge into Boston, and would bike from Malden if there were more bike lanes available along my route. Currently, I am in Ward 5, and myself and neighbors all rely heavily on the 106, 108, 411 bus routes to get to work every day, and this project would hugely improve traffic in a problem area that frequently causes delays. On my commute to work pre-pandemic, the buses are well utilized by Malden residents. They're always packed, and positive changes along the route, however small, would improve the large subset of residents. Audrey Recupero, 30 Plaisted Road, Malden. I'm writing support my Resolve 144-21 MBTA's MassDOT grant applications. As a car-free household and bus and train commuter for the past 10 years, I strongly support initiatives for improving public transportation and pedestrian safety. Upon reviewing the plans for this project, I expect to see positive results that benefit all commuters. Not only do I support this resolve, but I strongly encourage the city to continue seeking other funding for similarly innovative approaches. Shorter commute times mean residents spend more of their time and money within their own communities, and our local businesses could benefit from this extra support as they recover from the pandemic. Thank you, Charlotte Fischerelli, 52 Jacob Street. I would like to express my support for the proposed changes to Center Street through downtown Malden utilizing state grants. The proposal would provide a fair, balanced approach to allocating road space and utmost priority given to the efficient and safe movement of people. I frequently pass through or visit downtown Malden by my personal car or on a bicycle, and occasionally by bus. Center Street in particular, I currently most often use a driver of my personal vehicle. I feel these proposed changes will have little to no negative impact on driving in Malden Center, and will improve the increased downtown Malden accessibility by bike and bus. In addition, safety will be vastly improved across the board for all road users, but especially pedestrians and those on bicycles. I personally would opt to ride my bike and take the bus more often, and would likely visit downtown Malden more often. This is more of an important step toward increasing the total capacity of people who can move to and through downtown Malden, improving the area's appeal, and thus also boosting local businesses. The bus lanes will also have the added benefit of reducing response time by emergency services, as police cars, fire trucks, and ambulances will be able to use the bus lanes for more rapid response to emergency calls. Again, I am fully in support of these proposed changes to Center Street and downtown Malden. These changes will improve capacity for moving people, improve safety for all road users, make the MBTA more efficient, make the area more appealing, boost local businesses, and improve emergency services. August Blake. And I don't have an address for August. The Council Di Maria. Oh, that's Robert Turner. Okay, he's all set. I'm writing to support MassDOT MBTA grant project to configure Center Street in Malden Center. This grant is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and create a functional multi-model transit corridor. Perhaps more significantly, this project is a further step in revitalizing the character of Malden Center, correcting the auto-focused streetscapes of decades past, and leading towards a more vibrant, pedestrian-friendly environment. Evidence tells us that we can be intelligent in applying new designs in our public ways that embrace equity, access, safety, and enlightened understanding of convenience. Road diets have been used across the country for over 20 years, reducing peak speeds while maintaining average speeds through urban corridors. There are local projects in Arlington and Watertown and Cambridge that demonstrate these projects work, creating a safer environment for everyone. Thank you for the opportunity. Ben Wan, 187 Bainbridge Street. As both subway and carpool commuters over 20 years, we lived in Malden. We believe this proposal improves the experience of pedestrians, car drivers, bus riders, and cyclists. It will make far more streamlined and much safer road for everyone involved. This plan will be a great benefit for the city, as similar plans have been in other communities. Let's all get behind this. Thank you, Paul Sherman and Susan Gill, 284 Ferry Street. This grant is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and reliable transportation options for all of us. Smoother, safer traffic flow will create an environment where people will be more willing to stop in at the surrounding businesses, and families are more comfortable walking around our burgeoning downtown. Please apply for all available grant money for road updates. Street sidewalk safety is a serious lacking in Malden. Thank you, Jeff Taylor, 57 Mount Vernon Street. Dear Malden City Council, I'm writing to voice my support for the traffic signal and lane improvements being championed by Councils Winslow and O'Malley. When I first moved to Massachusetts nearly 20 years ago, I was drawn to Malden not only by its affordability, but its walkability and convenient access to transit. As a resident who at times drives, walks, bikes, and takes public transit, I can appreciate how these improvements will benefit all of our residents. While Malden has made strides in recent years in developing a more holistic approach towards our transportation infrastructure, there still remains much to be done. With the COVID-19 pandemic having laid bare many of the inequities we face as a society, now is the time for us to continue to reimagine our streets and sidewalks in a way that provides greater equity to all Maldonians, no matter how they choose to move about the city, and no matter what their age, race, socioeconomic, or disability status. Furthermore, with the existential crisis of climate change, we should be all doing what we can to encourage alternative modes of transportation by improving their efficiency and making them safer and more user-friendly for all. I strongly urge you to vote for this resolution. Alicia Gaza, 54 Bowers Ave. I'm writing in support of the proposal being discussed at tonight's public hearing. I'm submitting an opinion piece I wrote that was recently printed in the Advocate in addition to the following reasons why I feel the proposal is needed. Malden is a community that is known for public transportation and is one of the reasons why many people call Malden home. To deny diversifying the transportation options, we have to tell our residents we are adverse to improving our quality of life. We should be at the forefront of creative solutions to ensure the needs of all residents are met. This solution keeps provide equity for all. Please see below. Dear neighbor, what if I told you Malden could receive $1 million investment from MassDOT and the MBTA to update our traffic system to improve our quality of life? I bet you would want to know more, right? Councils Winslow and O'Malley are collaborating with the MBTA and MassDOT to secure $1 million worth of grants to do just that. They listened to the residents, looked at data, and found a way not only to help reduce traffic, but to increase bus service and make our streets safer for everyone. The grants would help us make these much needed improvements and could open the door to future funding. Keeping an eye out for the ways to leverage past investments and make sure we don't miss out on the future funding opportunities is exactly what a municipal grant writer can do, and hiring and funding such a position is something I will work to implement when I'm alive. Okay. For year, residents have said that our infrastructure needs to be updated. Every day, someone laments about traffic, road safety, and yet when faced with an opportunity to update our roads in an equitable way, make our current councils are either hesitant or indifferent to a solution that works for such drivers. This project would just take 2 weeks to construct, all done during overnights to minimize disruption for residents. These grants would increase safety for all users and offer choices in transportation by reducing barriers and increasing reliability. On Tuesday, April 6th, the City Council heard from MBTA Representative Eric Berkman, who explained that having dedicated lanes gives drivers, bikers, and bus drivers more comfortable commuting. This is truly a solution that work for all of us. Our city has the opportunity to foster equity and to create more symbolic transportation systems, and we cannot let inaction lead to more misled opportunities. It's time to speak up and make your voices heard. On April 13, 2021, the Malden City Council will vote on the plan and decide whether to accept the funds. First, email your council, and okay, that's irrelevant. Dear Clerk Lucy, the grant which is free to the resident. Oh, I'm sorry, Ari Taylor, 57 Mount Vernon Street. This grant, which is free to the residents of Malden, is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and reliable transportation for Malden residents and businesses. Studies have clearly showed that these changes would make Malden safer and more welcoming for residents and businesses. Similar projects in neighboring communities have proven very successful. No factual evidence have been shown to support the claim that this will have a negative impact on traffic. Transportation policy for the city should be based on facts, not on people's beliefs or fears. Councils, please do not throw away this opportunity. Please do not use the delay tactics to kill the proposal. To squander the chance of free money for such needed improvements in the name of taxpayers of Malden would be a slap in their face. Thank you, Patrick Hogan, 184 Adams Street, number 1. This grant is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and reliable transportation for all of us. The proposed project is based on sound evidence, and there are several local examples that demonstrate there'll be no noticeable negative impact on road traffic. If anything, it'll make road traffic smoother, make our downtown safer for all those who use our roadways, vehicle drivers, buses, cyclists, and pedestrians, and has the potential to reduce bus transit times, helping support working-class residents of Malden, ensuring greater equity. Thank you, AJ Kerma, 12 Savin Street. I'm a homeowner in Malden, and I support the Center Street changes living in Ward 1. I walk regularly from my home along Main Street and into the city center. I don't bike myself, but I still support these changes because they reduce the number of lanes to cross and the peak traffic speed. Even a modest reduction can be the difference between injury and death. The current road design encourages drivers to treat the stretch like a freeway, and this is incompatible with safe pedestrian usage. I've had many negative interactions with unsafe drivers along this route, even when crossing in the crosswalk and waiting for a light. I worry for the elders who walk the same route for shopping or for activities at the Malden Senior Center. Why are we putting them at rest? Thanks, James Mickle. There's no address, but we know James. He's written in before. Council President, if I could, the next one, there's 5 people that wrote in letters, and it's the same letter, but I'll read the letter once and read the 5 names.
That'll be fine.
Okay, so this is Dear Clerk Lucy. I'm writing to have my support for the MassDOT MBTA grant project proposed by Council Winslow and O'Malley, filed as a matter of public record and shared at public comment. The grant is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and reliable transportation options for all of us. Please acknowledge that you received the support for my opportunity. Thank you for my opportunity. This is from Shikshaya Shrestha, 63 Robert Street Extension. We got one from Jai Tan, who lives at, just says Ward 4 resident. Alessandro Campos, 170 Tremont Street. Milas Bowman, 170 Tremont Street. And actually Barbara Kim had talked already. So then there's 2 left. It's the same letter. If I can read one and give you both names, if I could. This grant, which costs the residents of Malden nothing, is an opportunity to provide safer streets, traffic signal prioritization, and reliable transportation for all of us. Road diets have been used across the country for over 20 years, reducing peak speeds while maintaining average speeds through urban corridors. There are local projects in Arlington, Waterton, and Cambridge that demonstrate this project worth creating a safer environment for everyone. Opposition to this project has provided no evidence in support for the claim will make traffic worse. Transportation policy of the city should be based on facts, not people's beliefs or fears. It's from Timothy Harden and at 158 Summer Street. And then we got a similar Christine Tierney from 140 Malden Street.
How many did you say were there that came in favor?
I got 32 in total. There was 4 that we ended up taking out, so I read 28.
28. Thank you. Okay. So we're going to close that portion of the hearing. And now I'll open up the hearing to anyone wishing to speak in opposition to the petition. Anyone wishing to speak in opposition to this resolve that's before us, would you please raise your hand? And we'll start off with Mr. Neal Kennan. You are allowed to speak.
Hi, Neil. Can you hear me?
I can, Neil.
Thank you. And this is Neal Kennan, 11 Spruce Street, Malden. And I appreciate the time to speak. And particularly, I would like to say that what you've been presented is a one-sided analysis. I'm going to try to attempt to give you what the majority of people who travel to work use. For a bit, I heard a number of things. I'll start with business development. And if you would please consider these figures. If you think they're false, go check them out. In pre-pandemic, you could get to 2.6 million jobs in 1 hour in Greater Boston. Pre-pandemic, you could get to 275,000 jobs in 1 hour using the T. The reason for that, even if you shave off a few minutes, the reason, and that goes at 45 minutes, it's the same ratio, almost 9 to 1. The reason for that is that you're on a hub and spoke system. So no matter what you do, people would have to go in and then out, go in and then out. There were a number of people who spoke today that I personally know spoke in favor. They work in Cambridge. They could take the T. They're never going to take the T. So I just, when you can get to that many jobs pre-pandemic, it is very important to consider that fact for your residents, where driving has increased during our lifetimes every single year. Every single year, our city has added cars. In 1970, we had about 19,000 cars in Malden. Today, we have 43,000 that are paying excise tax, roughly, and we all know there's far more. Those people mostly are going to work by car. That's not going to change as the pandemic changes. Many of our office places have gone remote or looking elsewhere outside of downtown Boston. So from an economic development standpoint, it is critical that we be friendly for cars. Now I'll bring something else up that is near and dear to my heart, is downtown Malden. In downtown Malden, we have a 300,000 square foot empty office building today. Last week, and it's been empty for a number of years. Last week, you approved 150,000 square foot empty office building. That's 450,000 square feet of office building. And for all the talk last week of how they're not going to drive and whatnot, I provided some counselors the data from Assembly Square, which everybody loves. The most 4 recent buildings that went up in Assembly Square had 2 spaces per 1,000, up to 4 spaces per 1,000. We are not going to have office buildings here that are less than 2 spaces per 1,000. That means our city is going to have to provide parking somewhere. That might be the garages. So at 450,000 square feet, please consider this. Those people, that means at a minimum, 900 cars are going to be added when they fill those office buildings. And if they can't find parking, they won't fill them and there'll be a disaster. And it might be the reason why the one at 200 Exchange continues to be empty. But if we do that, you're bringing 900 cars into that corridor on top of the cars that are already coming. So you're trying to do the right things. I'm 100% for office buildings. Certainly wish there was more parking provided, but you're not going to be able to compete if you don't have parking and you don't allow cars to come. The city only has a few roadways, a few roadways that are for car friendly to get people east, west, north, south. And those should remain that way because our society, like it or not, remains that. So you're going to end up with more cars if you're successful with your business development downtown. Now, from a historic standpoint, we've already experienced the greatest walkable downtown ever. In 1971, go back and read the articles. It was going to be a walkable mall. We blocked off Pleasant Street and we made it difficult for cars to park and everything else. And we killed our downtown. There were certainly other factors. But again, I would go back to Assembly Square. Take a ride over there, folks. Do some real research. See how many people go there by T or by driving. There is ample parking in Assembly Square, and more people arrive to shop and everything else by driving. They don't make it ugly to get there by driving. So I'd ask you to consider those things. The second thing is east-west on Route 60. And the issue there is, and you certainly check this data out, but there's 13 buses that go east-west at rush hour. The 106, the 108, the two 106s, one coming from Wellington, two 106s, the 108, 411, 430, and the sparsely populated 131, which goes to Oak Grove first out of Melrose, and is nearly empty all the time. Of those 13 runs that happen during the morning rush hour going west, and that's 13 per hour. Of those, how much time does it take to go that route? If it takes a minute and a half today, you're talking about an empty lane for 40 minutes during rush hour while cars are trying to get through. Does that sound equitable? I'm a person who takes the bus pre-COVID every single day on 4 out of the 5 buses. I would ask anybody, why is it proper for me, a bus rider, to believe that I should go faster than the car rider? Is my job more important than anybody else's? Is my time more important than anybody else's? No, it is not. But if the real answer here, going west, was that we wanted to speed the bus lines up, I suggest to you, and I ask you to test this because I have. Come down, and the last bus stop on Salem Street, where 4 out of these 5 buses come from, the last bus on Salem Street is in front of the library. If you took a right on Red on Pleasant Street between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m., the rush hour, you encounter, again, after that Ferry Street, you only encounter one light at the end of Pleasant Street. Between 5 a.m. and 9 a.m., Pleasant Street is deserted. Deserted. You can speed down Pleasant Street in no time. Try it out. Otherwise, you can go straight during rush hour and you can go through either 6 or 7 lights because you got to stop at the one on Pleasant Street, then you got to stop at Exchange Street, then you got to stop at Main Street and Route 60. Then you got to stop in front of the CBD garage. Then you got a stop light in front of the Jackson garage. Then you got a stop light at Commercial and Route 60. And if you're lucky to be enough on the 108, you're done with the lights. On any of the other buses, you take a right and you go up the street on Commercial Street to another light at Exchange. Hopefully you don't hit it. And then you go into the T station. If the T was really interested in cutting time, that's the route they would take. For the 131, which is empty because it drops all its passengers off at Oak Grove, they would shoot that bus down the nearly empty Florence Street lane because only 3 buses travel the Florence Street lane, and there's only one more bus stop. No bus stops go into Malden Square. Now, I would suggest that you consider in terms of equity and access, what I just suggested about going down Pleasant Street would add far more equity and far more access. Even some of the people talked about access to Malden Square. Until the recent past, buses used to shoot down Malden Square. If a bus during the day brought from the east side people down Malden Square, the seniors could stop at the senior center. That doesn't have to be a stop before 9 a.m., so it doesn't slow down commuters. And the other people could stop at City Hall. Again, doesn't have to be a stop till 9 a.m., but it would bring seniors from the east side, handicapped people from the east side, people of lesser means from the east side into the heart of our downtown. The only stop between the library today and the T station lies on Route 60, a stop rarely, if ever, used. If you want to talk about safety, is it safe to be a senior and go to the library and get out and walk to the, if you can, walk to the senior center? Is it safe if you're handicapped to do that? If you're a child to do that? As a child, I took the bus out of Maplewood just like I do today. 106, 108, 411, 430, and went to the YMCA almost every day. It dropped me off right at the Center Methodist Church where the senior center is. This is equity. What we're talking about here is, truth be told, is shutting down the lane on Route 60, where cars outnumber commuters, according to the Census Bureau. And Councilor Winslow can say, oh, it only counts one leg, the furthest leg you take. Well, cars are the most, over 20,000 rides a day. And the buses during rush hour, during the day, 1,600 a day. And bikes, I can't even believe this city council or any other council is talking about this. It's 132. If you tenfold it, and you're never going to tenfold it, it doesn't make sense to take half the lanes down in Route 60. Please consider this. Please consider it. And one more thing. Some of the same folks on here were promoting and saying the same things about a bike lane that needed to be on Route 99 a little over a year and a half ago. They claimed if they took that right-hand turn lane off of Route 99, it wouldn't cause havoc. Well, it was a disaster. The same people saying, oh, if we do this, it won't back up traffic much. It backed it up almost to Salem Street. And for all of you councils on the east side, most of the people who got on this phone, don't take the bus, I recognize the name, are from the west side, and they don't encounter that same thing. What we encounter is, oh, I'll go down Waite Street, I'll go down Webster Street, I'll go over Bainbridge Street because I can't go near Salem Street, and we're doing this during pandemic when the schools weren't in. So please consider real development, real speed for the commuter, goes down Pleasant Street or up Florence Street, and real equity drops people off at the senior center, downtown, and real business development focuses on moving traffic. Cars are not the enemy. They are our friend. Cars being the enemy was Pleasant Street from 1971 until a heroic mayor and a council took a chance and got everything off of Pleasant Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael Sullivan is next. You're allowed to talk.
Thank you, Neil.
You're welcome.
I brought up.
Michael, did we lose you? Michael, you're back.
Okay, very good. Neil brought up a great point about when they drop City Hall in the middle of Pleasant Street. And they had a bunch of studies that everybody's talking about that said it'd bring, turn Pleasant Street into a mall, and it was just a horrible, horrible thing. It just absolutely shut down the businesses in Malden Square. If you look at Melrose,
I'm sorry, Michael, would you stop? Would you give us your address, please?
22 Rand Street.
Thank you.
22 Rand Street in Malden. If you look at Melrose, the cars go by, up and down Main Street freely, and the businesses thrive. So that I've put a letter into the record, and I wanted to make sure that people understand that these studies, they can make them say whatever they want them to say. And it's just, if it doesn't make sense, let's not do it. What's happening is you're taking 2 lanes and putting it down to 1 and telling people that traffic is going to move faster. Anybody can tell you that that makes no sense. Just like it didn't make any sense putting City Hall in the middle. So I'm going to leave it with that and hope that the rest of my letter gets read into the record. Thank you, Neil.
Thank you, Michael. Stephen? Stephen, you're allowed to talk. Stephen, are you there?
Oh, I am. My apologies. My name's Stephen. I live at 226 Alpha Washington Street, near the Melrose line. Can you all hear me okay?
Stephen, what's your last name?
Nie, N-I-E, November, India, Echo.
Thank you. Your address again, please?
226 Alpha Washington Street.
Thank you. Go right ahead. The mic is yours.
Cool. Thank you very much. And I thank you all for your time as well. So I just want to bring up 2 points. What? Oh, sorry. Anyway, so I wanted to just double onto the point of like the 2 others that was speaking before me. Just like them, I don't quite understand like how restricting yourself from 2 lanes down to 1 will, even with the better signals at the near Ferry Street will help with traffic all that much, because like I sometimes drive down that area when I'm headed to a library after work myself, and I'm coming off the highway going straight down 60 there, and traffic is atrocious no matter what. So I don't really understand how making squeezing it down to 1 lane and with buses mixing in to cross over the turn left into towards Malden Center will exactly improve traffic. That's just my opinion. And the second point I wanted to make in regards to public transit is regard to public transit. I'm not sure if you, I'm pretty sure you all know actually, that about roughly once or twice a year, the MBTA shuts down like the Sullivan Square to Oak Grove for like rail repairs while they switch everybody over to shuttle buses. My parents go on that shuttle bus from time to time when they need to go to Boston. I sometimes go on that shuttle bus when I need to go to Boston. So having all the buses like in general or during the weekday, like be able to get to the destination faster and move people faster is well and good, but I'm not really convinced that all that having the buses move faster will necessarily increase service. Sorry if I seem rambling. And the second and one final thing I want to talk about on public transit is like, is Uber and Lyft considered a bit of public transit? So I know that in general it's costs more than it takes for the bus, but I feel that if like since Uber and Lyft are usually typically cars and maybe some SUVs from time to time, if those get restricted down, I don't think traffic's going to really improve all that much in that area. Anyway, that's all words I got.
Thank you. Is it Danielle?
Hi, yes, thank you, Councillor. This is Danielle here. I just wanted to speak.
Your address, please.
Yes, my address is 15 Harding Ave, Malden. And I wanted to speak in favor of this proposal. I think this is a great opportunity. We should really take advantage of it. So, you know, I can speak personally. Prior to COVID, I took public transport into work every day. and I can say it was packed. The buses were packed, the T is packed. Lots and lots and lots of people in Malden rely on public transportation to get to work. Anything that will make it more efficient, that will make it run smoother is going to be great. Certainly, we want to make sure we do this right. And I understand some of the concerns people have about, like making sure that we study it, what's the impact going to be. But this is an opportunity that is either we take it or we lose it. And we really need to take advantage of this so we can make transportation better for all of us.
Thank you. This is the speak in opposition portion of the hearing, but we'll log you in as the speaking in favor.
Thank you. Sorry about that.
You're all set. Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition to this petition that's before us? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Do you see any other hands here? I don't see any other hands raised from our guests. Will any of the attendees? Mr. Lucy, you have some letters of opposition?
I do. I have 18. Once again, I would like to voice my objection to the proposed changes to our city streets with regards to installing bicycle bus lanes, particularly the proposed busway auto turn off Route 60. I don't believe this is the right time to move ahead with these plans. With the pandemic change in the workplace, traffic is at its lowest volume currently. This is the wrong time to assess the needs of downtown Malden bus lane shared lanes. When things return to normal, this may be a better time to assess the commuting needs of all our citizens. Again, I do not see enough bikes in our city streets to warrant these changes currently. Even if federal money is available to help offset the cost, it doesn't mean we have to accept it. Ian Warren, Ward 5, 78 Rutland Street. I'm writing to you, I'm totally against the bus and bike route change on Route 60 traffic. Traffic is already tough enough and a lot of people working from home due to COVID, so traffic is lighter than at this time, so it's going to get worse. Also, the new city hall and new business in that area, traffic will be crazy. Also, this should be voted on by the residents of Malden, not pushed through. Anthony Birutki, 69 Princeton Road. After reviewing the plan changes on Route 60 in regards to creating bike lanes and the narrowing of traffic lanes, I would have to say that this is the most ridiculous and short-sighted proposal I've ever seen. Route 60 is a major east-west thoroughfare throughout the city, is narrowed and it will only increase the time it takes to go both ways across our city. The traffic will be back up and our side streets will then be used as circumvent traffic. We currently have a bike path that runs almost parallel to Route 60 that can be used by pedestrians and bicyclists. Therefore, the proposed changes are not needed and a waste of our tax dollars. I strongly oppose this plan and ask that it not be implemented. Sarah Moran, and I don't have an address for Sarah. Hello, my name is Sandra Main, residing at 236 Oliver Street, and I would like to sign the petition against the proposed changes on Route 60. I am opposed to the bike and bus lane on Route 60. The traffic is already horrendous, and when the schools are back with full attendance, the last thing we need is fuel lanes for cars. Paul Oliva, 52 Tremont Street. As a lifelong resident of Malden, I write my opposition to the proposal on Tuesday's docket concerning the changes to Route 60, including the addition of bus and bike lanes noted for the record. Thank you, James Nesta, 14 Rosemont Street. Hi, I'm writing in regards to the new traffic proposal. I'd like to express my concerns on this proposal passing. I do not agree with this and feel it is a bad idea for this time to pass. In my personal experience, it has taken me 20 to 30 minutes to travel from Malden Square to Broadway during high traffic time. That is going down and back. So round trip can take more than 40 to 50 minutes. It just doesn't seem fair to the people that need to be out at these times. It will greatly affect many people's quality of life, spending increased time sitting in traffic, bad track. Lisa and Paula, bad traffic. Lisa and Paul Sullivan, 79 Leonard Street. I'm writing to express my objection to the bike bus lane proposed Route 60 and wish to have my email read. I drive for a living, and for the last 18 years, I've been working around the cities of Cambridge and Somerville and have witnessed firsthand the traffic nightmares that these lanes have caused to these cities. Traffic has gotten worse, not better, since these cities implemented these lanes, which for the most part are used seasonably by bike rides, if even. In Cambridge and Somerville, where bike riding is more prevalent, these lanes go unused for a large portion of the year thanks to the harsh New England winters and unpredictable spring and fall weather. Yet the headaches caused by these lanes to drivers are a 12-month issue. Despite the claim that they ease traffic, reducing busy streets from 2 lanes to 1 to accommodate occasional traffic does not reduce traffic. It does the opposite. If this goes through even with pandemic level traffic, it will be a sea of break late. Again, I say from experience, not fear. I have witnessed and experienced the nightmares firsthand, and this is not what Malden needs to do to move forward. Since the pandemic began, I have been relocated and spent much of my day driving around Malden, including in the area where the bike lane is proposed to be placed. And I have to wonder, why are we even considering this, especially with the bike path running nearly parallel? Where are the bike riders? Have we learned nothing from the apartment building disaster? If we build it, they will not come. So again, I ask this, why now? Why are we catering to a nearly non-existent population at the expense of the drivers of Malden? Lastly, why the rush? Why are we pushing this with limited notification of residents? Does transparency only matter to certain councils when the matter at hand does not meet their agenda? Is it okay for them to act in ways they criticize colleagues for what meets their needs? How is that transparency? Sounds like hypocrisy. William Smith, 24 Forest Street. I'm a resident of 21 Seaview Ave. I wanted to voice my displeasure with the Route 60 project. I'm completely opposed to this, and I believe it will increase traffic and put stress on our secondary roads. Also, there's not been much public debate about this. Seemed rushed and secret by those pushing for this. Brian McDonough. This is Tom Robertson at 1 Lake Circle. I oppose bike lane on Route 60. Thanks. I'm opposed to the city putting in a bike lane. I feel it would cause more traffic and could also be a safety issue. Katie Bozzi, 24 Almond Street. Please accept this email in opposition of the bike lane creation of Malden. The walking and bike path is ample enough for bikers. Jason Monroe, Ward 6 resident. Dear Mr. Lucy and members of the City Council, I have reviewed the limited information available for this evening's vote, in which this email read into record as opposed to the proposal by the MBTA. As a citizen and business owner in the city, I find the matter troublesome on several levels. First, the proposal is being pushed through without proper vetting and in the midst of an immense misinformation. Contrary to claims, the $1 million in grants is not singular to this matter. The city has already received the first round approval for one of the grants, a grant for traffic on Main Street, so Everett, in the amount of $225,000. Another grant for traffic signal for Salem Street in the amount of $350,000 has already been denied at the first round of pre-approval and is no longer available from what I understand. The last grant for bus and bike lanes and traffic signals is a completely separate one for $491,000. Those who join the 3 grants together are simply perpetuating misinformation. We need to do better. Yes, there is a grant. No, it is not a grant for $1 million. Such details are important and should not be glossed over. In short, we are not looking at $1 million in grants for the bus and bike lane. It's less than half that amount. Second, this is a major change to the traffic patterns of the downtown. It has not received the proper public attention it requires. From my perspective, the public has little to no involvement in this and has had few of its questions answered. As an interested party who travels this route every single day, I have many questions that still require answers. Yes, there were small traffic meetings and there appears to have been subcommittee meetings, but this is not enough. Such major changes need information campaigns to seek involvement from the public and to ask the local businesses for their thoughts. We have taken years to address the trash issues in the city, but we allow our main downtown traffic to be dealt with in a few short weeks with little public transparency, especially in the time of pandemic. Such a disparity is glaring. Third, there are a multitude of questions that have not been asked and information has not been provided. The traffic studies used are several years old and not focused on this proposal. How is it that this city asked for traffic studies and peer reviews from developers as a matter of course, but is okay using outdated information in this instance? Why hasn't there been a peer review study? This is a major departure from standard practices. This points out a trend within this proposal. Without being exhaustive, there's been very little vetting of this idea from purely information perspective. While this proposal may quicken the bus route, what will it do to non-public traffic on the route? What types of traffic will it push from Route 60 into the neighborhoods? Exactly how much time will it add to public transportation? How much will it take away from everyone else? What traffic studies have been done to examine the impact of the secondary roads? Even from the paltry amount of public documentation, there are more questions than answers. As an example, I see that the buses will need to switch lanes within a few dozen feet to enter and exit from the bus lane. How efficiently will the bus be able to make these switches back and forth when the rest of the traffic is consolidated down to one lane? Lastly, and there is no reason for rapidity, which this is happening, unless the proponents are concerned about too many questions. I understand that there is a grant of $491,000 at stake, but a grant that harms us is not money the city should be interested in receiving. I'm very sure that is a good proposal can withstand examination and review without a loss. If the MBTA wishes this to be a truly collaborative effort, they should answer the questions, provide the proper analysis, and keep the grants open. Frankly, it's a grant for their benefit. Let us remember that historically problematic proposals are typically the ones to seek rapidity, and avoid attention. Let us not fall into such a trap. If this is a good proposal, then it will still be a good proposal after proper vetting. I urge that this proposal be tabled and the council instead seek to commence a public information campaign designated to obtain public opinion and disseminate information similar to what has been done with other major changes. Let us make no mistake, this is a major step and should be properly examined. Roberto DeMarco, 17 Division Street. I'm writing to tell you that we are opposed to the bike bus lanes. This is the most ridiculous idea I've ever heard. For some reason, the city jumps at anything that there's a grant for, just like that dangerous, ridiculous island in front of Doo-Wop Diner. Just because there is free money does not mean all things are good for citizens of Malden. We have a designated bike path, and the citizens of Malden have been sharing the road with buses for as long as I can remember, and I'm 65, and there are no problems. Please, for once, think about how this will affect the majority instead of the minority. Linda and Robert Jordan, 64 Harvard Street. I would like to register my voice in opposition of the proposal regarding Center Street. I think restrictions would only cause more irate drivers to race through our neighbors in an effort to make up the time lost. I appreciate your time. Randy Barrett, 12 Andrews Street. Mr. President, I have 3 letters that are similar to the same text. If I can just read it and I'll say who the 3 people. To whom it may concern, could this please be read into the record? My name is Roseanne Dimino, and I have been a resident of Malden for all of my 63 years. I've seen many changes in the city of Malden throughout my lifetime, both good and bad. After reviewing the planned changes to Route 60 in regards to creating bike lanes and the narrowing of traffic lanes, I would have to say that this is the most ridiculous and short-sighted proposal I've ever seen. Route 60 is the major east-west thoroughfare throughout our city. If it is narrowed, it will only increase the time it takes to go both ways across our city. Traffic will be back up at our side streets and will then be used to circumvent traffic. We currently have a bike path that runs almost parallel to Route 60 and can be used by pedestrians and bicyclists. Therefore, the proposal changes are not needed and a waste of our tax dollars. I strongly oppose this plan and ask that it never be implemented. A similar, again, the letter, 58 years like the other person, Malden. Person is Joseph Ivany, 182 Mill Streets in Malden. And again, a similar record, 58 years. Michael Sullivan, 22 Rand Street, who we heard from earlier. And then I just have one last letter. It's kind of an in-between letter. I didn't know how to take it, but I certainly felt it should get read. Please consider reading this correspondence into the record for Malden City Council meeting on April 13th and/or forwarding it to relevant officials. Any plan to allocate parts of Route 60 for buses or bicycles should include a sunset provision and collection of data about the cost and benefits to Malden. Consideration should be given to the number of cars traveling along Route 60, ideally reducing pass-through traffic, drivers seeking alternate routes through otherwise quiet neighborhoods, ease of crossing Route 60 on foot, and the economic impact of new traffic restrictions. Any plans to change traffic in Malden should consider all costs and benefits of the city's voters and businesses. Nicholas Forgio on Ward 2, Precinct 2.
Greg, I sent you a text. I've received 3 letters. If you look on there, I just said they're all pretty much the same. If you'll just read the one, that'll
okay. Good morning. This is Linda Jordan, 64 Harvard Street. We've been advised to let our council know how we feel about the proposal of bike bus lanes. We are dead set against it. It is ridiculous. We have a bike path that people can safely ride, and buses and cars have shared the streets for many years without a problem. Just because there is a grant available doesn't mean it's a good thing for the majority of the citizens. If I should be directing this to someone in addition to you, please let me know. Also, please let me know if the citizens' opinions matter at all, or if this is done deal like the trash program. Thank you.
Yes, and there were two others very similar to that kind of lumped together. Okay. Is there anyone else in attendance, the public, that wishes to add their voice in opposition to this paper before us? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Anyone else wishing to speak in opposition? Hearing none and seeing none, I will declare that portion of the hearing to be closed. Now let me open the floor up to the City Council.
Mr. President, there was another hand raised in the attendees.
I see a hand raised in the attendees. Diane. Diane wishes to speak. Diane, your name and address, please.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, excellent. Diane Jean, 58 Perkins Avenue, Malden.
Yes, Diane, go ahead. We want to hear what you have to say.
I unfortunately had to leave for about an hour, so I missed a great portion of the presentation. So I apologize if anything I'm saying is redundant. It's not so much that I'm for or against. I guess I just don't really think that I have enough information. All I can do is base it on how I have observed Somerville, because Somerville took a road that I was using pretty frequently, going through into Union Square, and then around and through to Cambridge. And it used to be a 2-lane road for automobiles, and then they did make one of the lanes, I guess, dedicated for bus and also bicycles. And the problem is with 2 lanes, you can't fit 3 things in a space for 2 lanes. And I had actually asked the question earlier, and Eric did reply to me, because what he was showing on one of the exhibits was that it was originally, and I can't remember if it was northbound or southbound on Center Street, but in any event, it was 3 lanes. It was showing that currently it's 3 lanes of, mixed whatever, but three cars could fit side by side. So there were like 3 dedicated lanes. And so now what's going to happen is that one of the lanes is going to be dedicated to bus, and then next to it, and that I believe he said that was going to be 11 feet wide, and then there was going to be a lane 5 feet wide for bicycles, and then next to that, 1 lane 10 feet wide for automobiles. So basically, what you're doing is you're taking 3 lanes that were available to automobiles, and you're now condensing it down to 1 lane for automobiles. And you're still going to have the same amount of cars going through that. And what I had seen happening in Somerville is that automobile drivers were getting more aggressive than, and we're pretty aggressive drivers. I mean, I've lived in various places in the United States, and let me tell you, around here, Boston and the urban sprawl areas, New York City can't even compete with us. I've driven in New York City, and it's like we are the worst as far as aggression goes. And I don't say that proudly, but I started seeing when they did that in Somerville and took over lanes that were dedicated either specifically for bicycles, or both buses and bicycles, that drivers were getting way more aggressive because now there's more congestion. For example, the exit on O'Brien Highway or McGrath Highway, whichever it is, that you would get off to go to Union Square, you were now, because of the limitations, cars are now backing up onto McGrath Highway and going actually is at certain times of the day, actually, because I got stuck in it, actually like backing up almost to the point of the bridge. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, like when you go up McGrath Highway in Somerville and like say like I think Foss Park is on your right, and then you get to the point where you can bear right to go towards I think that will take you like maybe towards
Washington Street.
Or you can make the loop around towards your left, and if you stay in the right lane, then that will take you over to Union Square. So you know, and then again, also on that road, I think that's Washington Street that would actually bend into Union Square. So it used to be 2 lanes for cars, and then one of the lanes they actually took for parking. And so where there never was parking before, they put parking, and they put a bike lane in it. And it was just like, I had my heart in my throat every time I would go around there. And, you know, because bicyclists aren't necessarily the politest people in the world either. And if they're going around cars, because if there's cars parked in their way, they'll go around cars. And then that's a hazard for auto drivers too. You know, it's kind of like
Diane, let me just ask you directly.
Sure.
Whether you are speaking in support or in opposition to the proposal that's before us.
Okay, so
that's what's before us.
Okay, so right now I can't say that it's either way, honest to God, because it just seems like, I don't know if maybe there's a plan in place to handle, you know, the situation, like, because I had noted that somebody had mentioned beforehand that this obviously needs to be enforced. You have to enforce that auto drivers will not be driving in, you know, the bus lane, and will not be driving in the bicycle lane. You know, so that's one thing. But then how is it going to work so that it doesn't get congested? Because I remembered hearing briefly somebody saying something about the timing of the lights.
Diane, there was a whole presentation
Yeah.
that was made at the beginning of the meeting that apparently you said that you tuned in late.
Yeah. Well, no, I saw the whole beginning part. I just had to leave when people started speaking for, like when you were doing the people that were for doing this program. And I thought I heard somebody saying that it was going to actually reduce congestion, even though you're taking up, like, there's going to be less space for auto drivers is basically the takeaway that I had. So it's like, I guess I would be against it if there's not going to be any remedy for keeping things orderly.
Okay, we'll mark you down as against.
But it's like, you know, I think that we just need a lot more information, you know. And I would just be interested to know, like, seeing that Somerville did do this already, have the number of auto versus bicycle collisions increased since and even Cambridge too, because Cambridge did this also a while ago too, putting in all kinds of bike lanes.
Okay.
So I'm just wondering, you know, I mean, I'm not like a for certain against. It's just, I just really feel like we need more information.
Okay. Well, it's up to the council now to decide which way we want to go. Yes or no. We wanted to get the input from our residents, and we thank you for sharing your thoughts. So now we'll open it up to the council. I see Councilor O'Malley has his hand raised. You've already had an opportunity. Any other councilors wishing to speak? Seeing none, hearing none. Councilor O'Malley, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I just wanted to highlight that Karen Buck submitted testimony in favor in the question and answer session, but it seemed to have been dismissed. So she's 332 Forest Street in Ward 5.
Who is that?
Karen Buck Gilbert.
Okay.
Thank you.
23.
Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, I don't want to be too redundant. We've heard a lot from both sides of this, but I'll say I had been pretty indecisive for a while on this, and I think the presentation done earlier and a lot of the input we heard from both sides helped me sort of come to my decision, and I'm going to be supporting this tonight. And I'd like to just say that, and as we're talking about it, and put that out there. And I'd urge my fellow councilors to really consider supporting this. I know it feels like a big change, and that could be disruptive. But I think from what we're seeing and from the data we're seeing in the reports, it really could be a fundamental shift in how we get, again, from the east side of the city to the west. I mean, I don't know how many. And hunting, maybe 1,000 trips on the 106 at least over the years, and how long it takes to get from one side of the city to the other. And it's not that you deserve to get there faster because you're on the bus, but because you're on the bus, you get there slower because you pull over and you stop, and 20 cars get by you, and you just sit there until you can come back out. So, yeah, I'll be supporting this tonight, and I really want to urge the rest of my colleagues here to support this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. President. So we've heard a lot tonight. It's already 10 o'clock at night, but I want to kind of back up for just 1 minute because, what we have heard from both sides, it's been going on about the facts and the data. And so really one of the things that I wanted to make sure that we are all in agreement on is what are the data points that we're going to be using to assess the effectiveness of this. And I know that Eric had, said some of the things that they, that you'll be looking at to make sure, to see if this is really effective, if it is actually offering what it's promised to offer. And so before you answer there, and it's sort of like, who's going to be collecting this data? What is the data going to be on? Who's going to be collecting it? And what is the time frame? Because, and I ask that just so we're clear, because again, people keep talking about, facts and data on both sides. And I have been, as I've said this, a couple of times, did my own little investigation, well, due diligence, we'll call it. And I did speak to other traffic engineers and traffic planners that are in some neighboring communities, some that I know, one that actually was a traffic engineer for the T. And I realize they're not really close to this situation, but for me, it also, they don't have any skin in the game, so they could sort of give me an unskewed viewpoint. And, as we're talking about this, the grant for $491,000, there's probably about 491 points of view on whether this is going to work or not. The jury is still out that it actually is going to offer what the promise is. So I just want to make sure that we know what the data is, what we'll be looking at, how we'll be evaluating, as someone said earlier, and I've seen it on other posts, that we can erase it if it doesn't work. But we got to know exactly what we're looking at, because if this is to pass, then I would assume that if it doesn't offer what we say it's going to offer, that, every council, at least that voted for it, will be offering up their mitigation to correct the mistake that we made, right, to right the wrong there. So I just want to make sure that we're all in agreement and all understand what the data points are. So in 6 months, 5 months, 2 months, whatever we're looking at, I can look at constituents that were here tonight for and against, because I got a pretty much even number of people that have reached out to me, or, that didn't really speak tonight, but I get a 50-50 split really down at Ward 1, pretty much. So at least I can say, this is the data, this is if it worked or didn't, so.
So are you saying that whichever way you vote, half the people are gonna be mad at you? Is that what you're saying?
Oh, yes. The,
Whichever way you vote, okay.
and I had a conversation actually with Eric Berkman. So and I did tell him that I wanted to need what the data points are so that I can say if this goes through, whichever way this is going to go, that someone is looking at this. This is what we're looking at, and this is how we're evaluating, and then corrections will need to be made if it's not really working as promised.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Council President. You look at the MBTA, we're assessed $4.1 million, and they bring benefits to our community for sure. People move here to take advantage of the T. But I travel across that Center Street corridor probably 4 or 5 times a week. And to me, the problem isn't bus lanes and bike lanes and car lanes. The problem is the signalization is so out of whack. It takes you much longer than it should to get down there, to get across there. And we have enough money to handle getting that straightened out. There's no reason for those lights to be that unsynchronized. And I mean, I certainly would commit to providing some funds to help with that. I think that's a big part of the problem. The cost of the MBTA to lay down the bus lane, and then they're out of the game. First, I've heard 10 years. Now, all of a sudden, even Mr. Berkman said, we think it's closer to 5 years that you'll have to service it. We pick up the tab after they lay down these roads. We pick it up. And I've heard people mention could be as often as 3 years. We can see on Florence Street, some of the white lines already coming up, and it's only been one winter. I mean, anybody that's gone down Florence Street can see that. I've talked to a lot of people from Somerville. Everything isn't as hunky-dory as it's made out to be. People are very frustrated in that city, the way traffic is, particularly around Broadway area. But I think there's another part to the story. I just don't see the traffic flowing the way they say, squeezing it down to one lane. We have to straighten out the lights. We have to straighten out the crosswalks. We have to make it safer for people. And I'm willing to do that, but I don't think this is the answer. There was a suggestion tonight from Councilor Kinnon. The bus is coming down Salem Street and they turn onto Main Street. If they took a right down Pleasant Street from early in the morning till 9 o'clock, they could make one stop there and get right to the station. Instead, they go down Center Street and they pick up 5 more lights. You know, that seems like a simple fix to get the bus off of that section, get the buses off of that section if possible. So I'm not ready to support this. I'm sure a lot of people may be angry, but I have to vote the way I think this thing's gonna go. But I will commit to straightening out those lights and straightening out the crosswalks and handicap accessibility, and hopefully we can improve the situation. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy.
Thank you, Mr. President. Well, it's certainly been a long night for all of us and for everyone. We still have a lot of attendees listening this evening. You know, a number of things. It was really interesting to hear everyone's opinion tonight and all the letters that were written in. And I want to thank everybody who took the time to actually, you know, talk to us about it. I think that's what we as a council need to hear. We need to hear what people think. And that to me is the biggest problem with this project. This is a major change to the way that we move through our city. And we really have not had much community involvement. You know, I want to thank, you know, the people who did come out tonight, but when you think about the folks that we heard from versus the 70,000 folks who live here, many of whom, as I walked Ward 5 this weekend, had no idea this project was happening. You know, we continually talk as a council, especially some of us, about transparency and involving people. Well, even in this project, the council wasn't involved until just recently. And that's a problem. And that's been part of the problem over the last 3 weeks. Even us councilors have been trying to get up to speed, because although Councilor Winslow and Councilor O'Malley, you know, have worked diligently on this and spent a lot of time with it, we weren't brought into the fold to really understand what was going on here. The questions about traffic being pushed into neighborhoods is a very valid question. That's one of the biggest issues I face with my constituencies on a daily basis. People, because of Waze and Google Maps, you know, being pushed into the neighborhood. What will this do to Ward 5 and Ward 6? And actually people coming off of Broadway, who've gotten off Route 1, who decide that, you know, maybe I'm gonna take a right at the Moose and go up the back roads to get through town, because I don't wanna have to get down Route 60 because that's backed up, and I don't wanna have to get down Salem Street, which will be backed up. So there's a lot of issues here that we just really haven't gotten, I think, our arms around. A couple of things that particularly bothered me about what we've been hearing is, you know, it took until last week to finally get a good indication of what the grants were, how they were allocated, how they were split, the fact that one of them was turned down during the first round, the fact that signalization, I'd still like to know in the 491, and I have not asked this, so it's not that someone hasn't given me this information, but of the 491,000, how much of that is broken down into signalization versus paint? That's a question I would like answered, okay? I'd also really like to get my hands around the fact of this traffic study. When we talked last week, we were told that we used a traffic study from 2015, and that there was one done by a developer, which I believe might have been Combined Properties, but I'm not 100% sure, for when they built their building, from 2018. And we had someone do some counts. I think it was Tool Design. But I've seen no traffic study. I've not been able to review anything like that. And we really do, as I said last week, when we have a developer come in and do something for our city, we always have our traffic engineer peer review it. None of that has happened. So it just seems like we are pushing this and pushing this, because of a grant. Grants come every year. I'm sure with the packages that are going through the federal government at the moment, that are all focused on infrastructure, there will be many, many grants coming our way. And to make a change like this without the information that we really need to view and vet, I think is not appropriate for us to do at this point. So I'm not going to be supporting this tonight, not because I don't think that it might not have some merit, but because I don't have enough information to support it. And as Councilor Crowe always says, the devil's in the details, and I really believe the devil is in the details in this project. And the other thing I don't understand is, you know, Councilor Crowe brought up a couple of good points when she was speaking at the last meeting about why can't we do a test run? Why can't we put cones out there? Why can't we see if this works? What kind of confusion it causes? Similar to what ex-Councilor Kinnon just brought up about Broadway. They did a test on Broadway. Everyone thought that was going to be great, but it turned out it wasn't. So why are we going through all the expense of laying down this paint, okay, that we might have to take up before we've even done a test run with a prototype? So, I mean, there's just way too many questions that we don't have answers to in the short time that we've been given to evaluate this project. So given more time, I might change my opinion, but at the moment, I have too many questions just to say yes at this point.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Winslow.
just a couple things. That test run on Broadway, I spent 18 months working to make that crossing safer because I listened to public input from people who used the trail, and that was the most unsafe thing. And I appreciate that our engineer department, we had to go back and do that twice. But in the end, the data showed that the things that Councillor Kinnon raised were bull. So actually the studies that we did, it was good we went back and did it, but it actually showed there was not impact on the side streets in any significant way. And the queuing was acceptable. And, we also made some changes. So I think that's the type of thing. I think there's an irony here as we talk about Pleasant Street, several things that there was a big push, as everybody remembers in the day, to get the buses off Pleasant Street to appease our businesses. The buses did used to run on Pleasant Street and Exchange Street. We pushed them onto Center Street. So maybe some of your councilors made that decision. But I think the ironic thing is that the reason why we have Center Street being so big and Florence Street being so big was because those were done when we closed off City Hall. And because to take the traffic that used to be handled on Pleasant Street. So now that we have Pleasant Street open and Exchange Street is getting redone, we have added capacity elsewhere that can take some of that. So, and I think the challenge on Pleasant Street, as we all know, is that at times there's double parking and other type of things. We want that to be a business street. And so that's the type of thing. I mean, I think generally, as my perspective as someone who does live on the east side of city, who traveled these routes in numerous ways, buses, driving, biking, walking. The one thing I did hear very clearly from the great majority of people who spoke in support was that the folks that are in Malden that have multimodal are very supportive of this. I think that the challenge is if your perspective is someone who is primarily looking out your windshield, Malden traffic sucks. And Councillor Kinnon is right. We have a heck of a lot more cars and we're not building any more roads. So we have to figure out how to use our roads more effectively. And so that's why I'm supporting this, is that this does work. And, we talk about process. I mean, one of the things that the city of Everett learned, and Jay Monty is their transportation planner, and they did amazing things. His comment is the project is the process. That we're going to have, we could have another 20 of these meetings and people are not going to realize it until we put the paint down and do this. So I really want to take Councillor Crowe up on her idea. And I think one of the things we should do as we move forward, and I would make this motion with Councillor Crowe, is that we form an evaluation committee if this does go through, so that we have several of the ward councilors. I suggest Councillor O'Malley, Councillor Crowe, and perhaps our traffic engineer and folks from the T set up those evaluation criteria before this is implemented, and look at it in 4 months and come back to the council and make any adjustments. I mean, that would be my proposal to take Councillor Crowe on her thoughtfulness about making sure we do have strong evaluation criteria to make sure that we look at it. This is a pilot, I totally agree. And so that would be my suggestion, that in passing this, that we form an evaluation committee to come up with those criteria and have that committee make sure we gather that data and come back to the council and make a judgment about whether we want to keep this. So that'd be my suggestion, my motion in moving forward with this. Thank you, and supporting it. Thanks.
Okay. Councillor O'Malley for the second time.
I also want to agree with what Councillor Crowe had said. I think that an evaluation, and I support Councillor Winslow's proposal if Councillor Crowe does also. I support reevaluating this, at however interval we need to do this, whether it's 3 months, 6 months, 9 months, all of those, and taking a look at what needs to be tweaked to make sure that this does work for all modes of transit. What the models are showing right now is this will improve traffic for all modes of transit. When we talk about this being the pilot and this being the process, the goal is to get us, I think one thing we can all agree on is that getting grant money that does not impact our tax dollars here locally is a benefit. And I think this helps us get one step closer to the 25, $35 million that it's going to take to really redesign this stretch of Route 60 in order to open up the National Grid site, in order to open up the Stop and Shop site, in order to open up a whole nother part of our downtown that is currently just a giant parking lot. And, you know, we are now gaining the attention of commercial developments. You know, there's been a lot of talk about there being too much residential construction, and it's been unbalanced. I think this helps us get to where we want to go in a much quicker time. And the only example I can give is that Mayor Christensen, Deb Burke, myself, and Councilor Winslow and Senator Lewis and the entire legislative delegation, we pulled together a TIP application very quickly within months, and we're able to get it on the TIP and get Exchange Street reconstructed. We have a very good reputation. I promise we can do the same thing for Center Street. And this does help us get one step closer to that. So do view this as a pilot and do know that the long-term re-engineering and reconstruction of this roadway is something that I commit to.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Kamel.
Yeah, I just did want to corroborate Councilor Winslow. I'll say from my own action, I was quite a thorn in his side when we were dealing with that Broadway situation, and I was set a pretty high level to be convinced. And he did a lot of work, came back with a lot of answers, and was always willing to to keep working at it. So it wasn't just a quick thing. And so kudos to that. And I just wanted to back up what he was saying there. So.
Councilor Crowe.
Thank you, Mr. President, for the second time. Actually, Eric, if you can, what is the timeline for? So it even appeared to me that actually the grant has already been applied for and approved.
So yeah, so the question is, what's the timeline on the grant process?
The grant process, the implementation process, because I think, Councilor Winslow had mentioned last week to even start off with cones, even if it's, we're going to be doing all whatever you need to do. If this goes through and to get people going to that's sort of the first step in sort of our litmus test as we then, get ready to do all the painting. And if it's, because I believe it was like the before June 30th or May 30th, but at least we have the cones out there. I mean, that they stay out there for extended, a couple of weeks or whatever it is before the next one goes, or leave even a month. I think that then it's going to give us a little indication before the paint goes down where things might need to be tweaked or how it happens, because, it is expensive to put that paint down. It's not just, go to Home Depot.
Yeah, I mean, the thing that we found with the cone pilots was it's also kind of expensive to put the cones out because you have to have multiple times per day. You have to have public safety or traffic staff there to reset the cones, put them back out, take them in at night, put them back out during the day. The cone pilots that we did in Everett and elsewhere in 2016 and 2018, I believe, Everett and Roslindale in Boston, those are really just during a certain time of day, and they were just for like 1 or 2 days. I think the one was up to a week. But what communities have been doing recently is they've been doing these longer term pilots, as Councilor Winslow and Councilor O'Malley had mentioned, where the paint goes down and then, it's like a 6 month or a 1 year. Chelsea's in the middle of a 1 year pilot now. But I do think that it would be very challenging to do like a month long or several weeks long cone pilot, just because, especially if it's an all day facility, it really does take, quite a bit of labor, temporary signage, resetting the cones, etc. And you also probably wouldn't get the benefit of the bike lane if you wanted to try out the bike lane, though. I mean, I guess you could also put out a second set of cones, but It's just the cone pilots, we don't really do them very much anymore because they're just so labor intensive. So I think a longer term paint pilot is probably better for this particular facility.
And is the paint pilot actually the crushed glass, or is the paint pilot something that's a little less durable that you start with and then move into the, so we call it a pilot, but it's.
Yeah. So the paint, this is our fault that we use paint and aggregate kind of interchangeably a lot of times. So the grant funding that we applied for would be for the glass aggregate. So the manufacturer, and I also apologize for the confusion over the amount of time that it lasts. The manufacturer says that it will last 10 years. We have some that's been out there for 3+ years that still isn't ready for replacement. So we do hope that we get the full 10 years from the manufacturer, but we just don't, we haven't had anything out there for 10 years yet. So in our internal process, we're trying to figure out like, how long do we really plan for? Do we trust the manufacturer is going to be 10 years? Do we say 5? Do we say 7? So that's kind of, I don't have a great answer for that. I can just go by what the manufacturer says of 10 years, but it's the crushed glass bead aggregate that's basically like glued down to the pavement. So it can still be removed like paint. It's scraped up just like paint would be, but it does last. The paint, the actual paint sometimes is like 1 year. In fact, the Tobin Bridge, they painted it on, it was gone in a week. They had some like problem with the roadway treatment. So the aggregate is just it's a much better product. It's significantly longer lasting. Will it last 10 years like the manufacturer says? I hope so. Am I, in the back of my mind, am I thinking like I got a plan for 5 or 7? So I have some process in place for replacing it if I need to early. That's kind of the other little like seed in my mind. But we applied for the glass bead aggregate for this. So it's the longer term or the longer life product.
Thank you. And I agree with Councilor Winslow that we need to put together those that are pros, those that are cons, sort of, let's really kind of look at this as we move forward.
Okay, I see Councilor Winslow has his hand up, but it looks like everyone who has wanted to speak has at least had a chance to speak twice. So let me speak from the chair and tell you that no matter which way we vote on this, you know, for all of us, I believe we're hearing just about half the people are for it and half the people are against it, not only on the council but as our constituents. I'm going to be voting in support of this. I'm going to step out on faith here and think that this is something that we can at least try. This is a resolve for us to try something that, if it works, it will be something that we can make more permanent. But if it doesn't work, you know, we've invested a year's worth of activity into it, and we go back to the old way. I think that this is not an easy decision for any of us. For those who are who are speaking out in opposition to it, and I recognize your resistance to it, because I've been bouncing back and forth without really having come to any conclusion as to which way I'd go with this thing. But in the end, I think that it makes sense for us to give it a try, and for that reason, I intend to vote in support. And I see one more hand up, that of a councilor who has not spoken. So I will let Councilor Di Maria have the next word.
Thank you, Council President. It's very difficult to follow after you, as we've all said. It's been a long night. I first want to sincerely thank the two sponsors, Councilor O'Malley and Councilor Winslow, and Eric, for your wonderful presentation, your hard work, sticking with us since November, answering our questions, meeting after meeting, and to all the people and our constituents that spoke this evening, whether verbally or in emails. It just goes to show how great this city is changing in the right direction. And for many of us, change is difficult. for many of us, we again take that leap of faith. Is this going to work? Is it not going to work? But we're now a diverse community, and we have to stop and think about all of our residents. And with that diversity, we have to think about how we travel. We travel by bus, we travel by car, we travel on foot, we travel on bike. So I think that this project, in the last meeting, Eric, I think you answered that it's going to be done overnight in the wee hours of the night. The maximum time is going to be 2 weeks. I honestly, sometimes you just have to go, why not? Why not try? So I will be speaking in support of this. I would like to move the resolution and make a motion that we accept the resolution this evening, and I'm looking for a second. Thank you.
I would second the motion if there's no one else that would look to second.
Opposed to me, yeah, sure.
So I don't see any further hands up. We have a motion to approve this resolve, seconded by Councilor O'Malley, moved by Councilor DiMaria, seconded by Councilor O'Malley. Are we ready for the question?
Yep, let's do it.
The clerk, please call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
No.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
No.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Tsige,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Carries 10-2.
Okay.
9-2.
9-2.
Oh, yeah, I'll be all right. 9-2. You're right.
Greg, you're not on the council anymore, please.
Yeah.
I know the hour is late, but before we move on, Councilor Enzo, can you make yours in the
Yes.
motion?
Yes.
Yeah, so I make a subsidiary motion that we form an evaluation committee with Councilor Crowe and Councilor O'Malley being the co-chairs of that committee to no.
I'm kidding.
Okay, so to have a committee follow up an evaluation with the city engineer and the MBTA in the time that Councilor O'Malley and Councilor Crowe see appropriate.
Second. Councilor Kamel, go ahead.
So we have discussion on that motion? We have a motion to form this committee. The committee that'll be appointed by the president, but I'd like to hear who would like to be on it.
Okay, sure.
Councilors.
Okay. Leave no doubt about that.
So
Right?
I take that as a friendly amendment.
I've certainly tried to acquiesce to your desires. Any further discussion on the motion? Then the clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
No.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Tsige,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. So now, tell me, who would like to be on the committee? Would you raise your hands?
Dave.
Ooh.
Mr. President,
I don't see a hand raised. Yes, Councilor Spatafora.
I just have a question for Eric when he's here, because I know it was discussed early and I try to get my mute button off when we're voting, but do you mind if I ask Eric a question?
Yes, and maybe your colleagues will get up the nerve to put their hands up, so.
My hand's up, Council President.
Oh, you're still taking attendance for them. I'm sorry. I thought everybody had their hand up.
My hand is up.
your hands up. I see one hand up, one brave counselor, and the two sponsors, Counselor O'Malley, Counselor Kamel. There's two. Who was the maker of the motion?
Counselor Crowe.
I made it. I will do it. I thought Counselor Crowe might want to join in that, but I don't want to make too big of a committee.
Counselor Crowe, would you like to be on the committee?
All right. So,
Please.
yes. Okay.
And Counselor Crowe? Yes, I believe you should. And Counselor Winslow, I think you should be on the committee. I'd like one more.
Okay, I will. You're going to have 5 or 4.
Let's make it an odd number since you guys need a tiebreaker in there somewhere, right?
I'll bring beers. I don't know.
Counselor Linehan
Sure.
and Counselor Linehan. Okay, so we've got Kamel, we got O'Malley, we got Linehan, we have Winslow and Crowe. Is that correct?
Good group.
Okay.
Good group.
All right.
That'll be the committee, with the chair of that committee being the first. The chair of that committee will be who wishes to be the chair? Tough group, huh?
I guess I defer to the ward counselors first, but yeah,
I think
I'd
we
be willing to do
nominate
it, but I
Counselor
would defer.
Crowe.
No, maybe we can have that discussion.
You all can decide that amongst
Okay, we can
yourselves,
decide.
okay?
Okay, sure. Okay.
All right, let's move on to the next order of business then.
Not to prolong the
I'm
last.
sorry, Councilor Spatafora, you had a question that you wanted to ask to Mr. Berkman?
I do, and I meant to try to get it when we were voting on. So Mr. Berkman, you mentioned, I asked a question, I think it was I don't know, I'm getting a little delirious in the presentation, maybe the second one, in terms of allowing other buses in the lane. Is that something we have to talk to you when we apply for this grant? Because I think the rest of council hopefully supported that idea of using, public buses, private buses. When I mean private buses, so school
Motor
buses.
coach.
Yeah, I mean, something like that a lot, because that kind of helps the theory that if the bus gets stuck at the light, you get ample room. So my question is, do we have to work that out with the MBTA? Do we need to take a vote on it? What's the process there? And I apologize, I try to do before the vote, but
It's
all right.
hit button.
Yeah, so so a typical bus lane project where there's a separate bike lane.
Yep.
MBTA buses, MBTA paratransit, emergency vehicles, of course, and school buses.
Yep.
Where there's not an adjacent bike lane, then we'll usually allow bikes in there as well, as long as the service isn't so frequent that we think it's unsafe, et cetera. Other municipalities have voted to add other vehicles in. You don't necessarily have to vote. I mean, you guys are the ones, you still own the roadway, so you can just sort of decide, I think.
But we're allowed to do it without I don't want to say defaulting. You're not going to come back in and say, we gave you the grant money for the striping, you let a bus in there, right? It doesn't nullify our agreement.
I should just check that with MassDOT first, so nobody comes back to me for like almost $500,000. But so like, for example, the Encore buses where it's open to the public, you can get on, you can get off.
Yep.
Like those would likely be something that's fine to be in the bus lane.
Okay.
But in the Seaport, for example, Amazon runs its own separate shuttles. That's a private service that's not open to the public. That's something that we wouldn't want to be in the bus lane because it's not a public service. So generally it's a public service in the bus lane, non-public service, not in the bus lane. A party bus, not in the bus lane. An Encore bus, even if there's a party going on the public Encore bus.
A lot of rules there, Eric.
Yeah.
So
What about
Council
party
Winslow,
bikes? I don't know about that.
so Council Winslow,
Depends
Council
on
Malley,
if they
can we
win.
just verify that with the Mass DOT if we allow the other buses? Is that fair?
Good question.
Yeah.
That's all.
I can check on that as well. She'll want me to call her tomorrow after.
Yeah,
this
can you
meeting.
just let us know that in an email? Do you mind sending it to the clerk, Mr. Lucy? I appreciate it.
No problem.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Council President.
You're certainly welcome, Counselor. Any other questions? So thank
Council
you all for that. Let's move on to the next order of business.
Council President, before, can I just get a name for the committee? What do you want to call the committee?
A lot of decisions.
Center Street Evaluation Committee. I don't know.
The
Central Transit Evaluation.
the shared street Proposal Evaluation Committee. That's its name.
Okay,
Okay. Next order of business.
all right, so the next are a whole bunch of licenses. You want me to do them all at once, or you want me to do them each by group?
Ugh.
I'm assuming they're going referred, they're gonna get referred, so.
Can I make a
The rest of
motion?
the agenda. at
Do them
once.
all at once.
Yeah,
Do them all
Whole
at
agenda.
once.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Paper 15621, Lodging House Metro North Housing Corp., 115 Washington Street. Paper 157-21, Lodging House Metro North Housing Corp., 22 Charles Street. Paper 15821, Lodging House Cedar House LLC, 116-118 Cedar Street. Paper 159-21, Lodging House BREC LHP LLC, 155 Clifton Street. Paper 160-20, Outdoor Parking, Spatafora Trust, 35 Canal Street. Paper 161-21, Outdoor Parking, TJ Automotive, 315 Pleasant Street, 20 spaces. Paper 162-2021, Outdoor Parking, AGM Auto Sales, 135 Eastern Ave, 24 spaces. Paper 163-21, Pawnbroker, Art Carl Jewelers, 56 Pleasant Street. Paper 164-21, Secondhand Dealer, Art Carl Jewelers, 56 Pleasant Street. Paper 165-21, Pool Table, L&K Billiard Pool Hall, 77 Exchange Street, Suite 101. Paper 166-21, Pool Table, Loyal Order of the Moose Lodge, 1910, 562 Broadway, 2 tables. Paper 167-21, Self-Service Gas Station, Snap Mart, DBA Patroller, 245 Main Street. And paper 168-21, Self-Service Gas Station, Wash Depot 1, Inc., 333 Eastern Street. These are all renewals.
On Council Condon's motion to refer the petitions to the License Committee.
Second.
Second on that, clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Speaker,
Tsige, yes.
Betafora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Those papers will be all referred to the License Committee. Next order of business.
Paper 169-20, order the Personnel and Appointment Committee develop and advertise a notice for Representative Malden Disability Advocacy Organization position on the Human Rights and Fair Housing Commission. The posting will be advertised for a minimum of 2 weeks.
Councilor Crowe for the paper.
As it pretty much says, we have an opening for a representative from Malden Disabilities Advocacy Organization. And in the past, we've had someone from like Triangle or whatever serve on this commission. So I don't think it needs to be referred to any place, just approve so we can get the advertisement in and get somebody seated as quickly as possible.
So on Councilor Crowe's motion to refer to the matter to the Personnel Appointments Committee.
Well,
Clerk call.
we just approve because we're just going to advertise it right now. So just.
So you want to we want to then suspend so that it can be approved here on the floor?
Please.
On
I
Councilor
would
Crowe.
second that.
On Councilor Crowe's motion that we suspend docket rules for the purposes of dealing with this on the floor. Councilor Condon has seconded that motion. The clerk will call the roll on suspended docket rules.
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Speaker,
Tsige, yes.
Betafora,
Metaphor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
Motion to approve.
On Councilor Crowe's motion that we approve,
Seconded.
seconded by Councilor Condon, the clerk, please call the roll.
Kamel,
Yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
DeMaria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Speaker,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That paper has been approved. Next order of business?
Paper 170-20, order that the appropriation enumerated below being in the amount of $100,000 be appropriated from the Community Preservation Act Fund for the following project. Fellsmere Park Master Plan, $100,000 from budget reserve account, total appropriation $100,000.
Motion to refer to finance.
On Councilor Murphy's motion that we refer this paper to finance,
Second,
second by Councilor Di Maria. The clerk, please call the roll.
Kamel,
Well, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
DeMaria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Tsige,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That paper has been referred to finance. Next order of business?
Committee reports, paper 171-20, committee report license petitions, papers listed below, paper 37-20, petition livery, David Ulyss, 230 Bryant Street, number 3, 1 livery, it's a renewal, paper 39-21 livery, Roman Kern, 150 Sylvan Street, 3 liveries, it's a renewal, paper 181-21, taxi cab, Malden Trans, 290 Eastern Ave, 9 cabs, it's a renewal, paper 182-21, petition secondhand dealer, Cash King, 35-45 Lebanon Street, Malden, it's new. Paper 179-20, petition self-service gas station, Gibbs, 728 Main Street, Malden, renewal. Paper 339-20, petition Class 2 Broadway auto sales, 628 Broadway, Malden, 0 cars. And paper 367-20, livery, 5-star car service, 15 Mount Vernon Street, number 2. It's new and it's 1 car.
Move that we hear the committee report.
On Councilor Condon's motion that we receive the committee report, clerk will call the roll.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow. Di Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Tsige,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes.
And I see Councilor Crow there. She's on.
Yes.
Okay, good.
Councilor Condon for the paper.
Thank you, Mr. President. Several weeks ago, we met on these licenses. And with the input from our compliance people, we saw no reason why we shouldn't grant these licenses. There was one question on 728 on the landscaping. And I'm not sure if Council O'Malley straightened that out.
That's at Gibbs, that's the self-service?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm not opposed. We can still pass it. We're still figuring it out, but I don't want to hold up their license.
Okay, in that case, I would move that we grant these licenses.
On Councilor Condon's motion that we grant, do I have a second?
Second,
Second by Councilor Di Maria. The clerk, please call the roll.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Di Maria,
yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Tsige,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Those licenses have been granted. Next order of business.
Paper 172-21, committee report rules and ordinance. Paper 122-21, order be it hereby ordained that the revised ordinances of 2020 be amended by updating section 2.24.050 of the Police Superior Office Salary Schedule per attached.
On Councilor Spatafora's motion that we receive the committee report. All those in favor, the clerk, please call the roll.
Kamel,
Kamel, yes.
Condon,
Yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
Yes.
Tika,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. Committee report is received. Councilor Spatafora for the committee.
Thank you, Mr. President. This paper is, I don't want to say yearly, but this is an event every time there is a raise for any one of our unions or any raise period. The finance has to match the ordinance, which sets the rates. This is for the superior superior officers, which is, I think, sergeant and above in the Malden Police Department. And this is their, this ordinance was passed unanimously out of the ordinance committee last week, and this just matches the financial paper that's going into effect, so they can get their raises and any retro going forward. Pretty standard operating procedure. Financial side has already been approved. This is just the ordinance, some housekeeping to clean up that outstanding matter.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Spatafora's motion to enroll the ordinance.
Second.
Clerk will call the roll.
Kamal,
Oh, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Crow,
Yes.
Maria,
Maria, yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Tika,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafora, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Anderson, yes. That paper's been enrolled. Next order of business.
Docket is clear.
The docket is clear. And I see Councilor Winslow has his hand up. Councilor Winslow.
I know it's been a long night, but I did want to wish folks in our Muslim community a blessed Ramadan, and also thank our DPW for getting out there with our cleanups this past weekend and coming forward. And they actually did quite a bit of graffiti removal today as well. So just want to thank our DPW crew for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Murphy.
Yes, well, just in case anyone is listening, as Councilor Winslow knows, Saturday morning at 9:30, there's a cleanup on the bike path by the community garden. It will be cleaning Ward 5 from Franklin Street to Branch Street. I don't know, Councilor Winslow, if you're planning on going any further than that. I think you already got up into Ward 6 last week.
He's not saying.
I think you did.
We're hoping to get all the way the rest. We did a mile last week. We're going to do a mile this week. So we're going to get it all done.
There you go. So we'll both be down there on the bike path Saturday morning at 9:30. If any residents want to join us, just bring a pair of gloves. We'll have bags and, looking for any extra help we can get to make sure the bike path is kept in pristine shape. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor O'Malley.
Thank you, Council President. I just wanted to remind the council as well as the public that tomorrow at 7 p.m. the Planning Board will be holding a joint ordinance and Planning Board hearing to discuss some zoning amendments related to the Malden River. Specifically, it's looking to get a 100-foot setback from the river so that we can get an appropriate a waterfront pathway. Looking forward to hearing what the public has to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Condon.
Thank you, Council President. I'd like to take advantage of the fact that we're on TV. We're having a ward cleanup on the 24th of April. Be meeting at Little Pearl Street Park between Thatcher and Malden Street. We'll have bags and poles with nails in it to pick up the papers for us people that can't bend down. But we certainly appreciate any residents that would like to come down. We will put you to work and we won't work you too hard. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Linehan.
Thank you, Mr. President. I also have a couple of park cleanup reminders. We had a rain out a few weeks back on the cleanup we were going to do in Patchell Park. That's going to be this Sunday at 2 with the Friends of Oak Grove. So all are welcome to come down to Patchell Sunday at 2 p.m. We usually go for a couple of hours. And then the following Saturday, which I think is the 24th, we're going to be doing Fellsmere Pond starting at 10 a.m. So come on down. We'd love to have volunteers at either or both.
Thank you, Councilor. for the second time. Counselor O'Malley?
Sorry, I just wanted to thank all the volunteers that came out and cleaned up the Waits Mount this weekend. We had a great turnout, over 30 people. The Mystic Valley Regional Charter School had a great student and parent showing, so I really wanted to thank them and everyone else that came out. Thank you. Oh, and the Malden LGBTQ group also came out to help.
Okay, I don't see any further hands raised. Do I have a motion that we adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
We have someone that
Second.
wants to adjourn, huh? Okay. And a second on that motion. The clerk, please call the roll.
Kamal,
Kamal, yes.
Condon,
Condon, yes.
Yes.
Maria,
Yes.
Linehan,
Linehan, yes.
Murphy,
Murphy, yes.
O'Malley,
O'Malley, yes.
Mika,
Tsige, yes.
Spatafora,
Spatafor, yes.
Winslow,
Winslow, yes.
Anderson.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
for tonight.
Night,
Good
everybody.
meeting. Good night, everyone.